Wonderful Wednesday afternoon. How are you? And welcome to the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X, as always, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website where 100% of the revenue stays right here in the province of Alberta. PlayAlberta.ca. Be sure to use the promo code Gregor50 and you'll get free play, $50. Check it out at playalberta.ca. Use the promo code Gregor50. Oh my goodness. It feels like we've been gone forever. Not even 2 weeks, but refresh back. I highly recommend if anybody out there. I've been to Hawaii many times. I've never been to the Big Island. And we went to the Big Island and it was fantastic. Very different than Maui or Oahu. Definitely not as commercialized, I would think. Also, just way bigger. And I didn't know that there's 11 different climates on the island. The mountain has ice caps on the top. And if you want, at certain times of the year, people actually ski there. Crazy. Then you have like a rainforest area. Then you have like a desert area on the island. You also have, of course, the volcanic rocks and ash all over the place. That's where some of the resorts are. And then there's waterfalls and so much to do, from helicopter rides to snorkeling. Lots of great snorkeling if you're a surfer. The boogie boards. That was fantastic. So highly, highly recommend. It was fantastic. It was great. And if you're a foodie, we'll get into some of the places to eat. And it's always great because you talk to the locals and they will tell you the best place. We went to this Gill's Diner, small little diner. Like literally, it might have 12 seats. It is the greatest burger I've ever had in my life. And it was a venison burger. Oh, and their fries. I don't know how many of you cons, if you remember the original McDonald's fries, which were made with the beef talon, that rather than all the oil, they had those fries with the beef. Unreal. So I might have to talk to Joe and Chad at McDonald's. I'm going to have to start a petition. Get those back. They were unbelievable. So, great place. Highly recommended if you ever have plans to want to go travel there. All the locals, super friendly. And the weather, it's, certain parts of the island, it can be very different from day to day, but it's always warm. That's all I know. Even when it rains, it's still warm. So, it's great. Now, lots and lots to discuss. The Edmonton Oilers, a victory last night to Connor McDavid, doing Connor McDavid things in overtime. Oh, my goodness. What a play. And how about Coach Chris Knobloch? Who thinks of putting Connor Brown on the ice in overtime when he hadn't scored a goal in 21 games? Knobloch has like this weird sense of knowing when to put guys on the ice, and it seems to work out. Because if you put a left shot out, he's not one-timing that puck. Now, it's a really good shot by Brown, but it's an unreal play by McDavid. And, Draisaitl one-timer earlier. The Oilers probably should have been up in that game, although you could make the argument St. Louis could have been up 3-1 after Thomas missed a wide-open net. Stuart Skinner didn't face a lot of shots early, but man, did he make some big saves. One thing I've noticed since I've been, because, you leave, and when I go away, I actually shut my phone off. I would highly recommend it to you if you can do it. I turn my phone on twice on and when I mean on, like I mean on. I shut it off. I just leave it there. Once I leave the airport, because we had to fly to Vancouver. Once I leave Vancouver, my phone was off. Didn't turn it on for 4 days. Got to check in business stuff very briefly, and that's it. And it is the most refreshing time ever. Not having your phone. You don't even realize how addicted you are to it. You got to look at it. Oh, what can I scroll? What can I see? It's amazing. Anyway, so so we get there on the Friday night and we go out for dinner, and there's a theater in Valea, and you're walking by the theater. My son, of course, he's a big sports fanatic, because I'm walking by because I'm just on holiday mode. He comes, sits down, and goes, "Dad, Rantanen just got traded." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, where?" He goes, "I didn't see where." And so we go, "Well, who do you think it got traded to?" Well, I'm like, and I talked beforehand. We were telling him, "Hey, I've been saying it for years. What does Carolina need? They need a legit player. They need a legit offensive guy." Now, since the trade, he hasn't really been a legit offensive guy with only 2 points. But I thought that it's an interesting trade. It's a ballsy trade for Carolina because what if he doesn't re-sign? I get that you traded Gensel and you traded away some young prospects. None of them were high end, but you just traded away Drury and Marty Necas. If they don't re-sign Mikko Rantanen, that's a huge loss of a trade for them. Huge. And then what about Rantanen's comments afterwards? We'll talk to Rich Winter about it as an agent. When Rantanen says, well, I would have signed for less to stay there. And you're like, what? Now, is that just what you're saying publicly? It seems a little off to me. Wouldn't the agent have had significant conversations? It's one of their top 3 guys in Colorado. You have Makar, you have McKinnon, you got Rantanen. It's not like it's a surprise. Everybody knew his contract was up. You're telling me that there was no conversations at all? Now, I had heard rumblings from people talking about how Rantanen, wanted to make more than McKinnon. And I was like, well, if that's the case, well, that's just foolishness because he ain't McKinnon. He's a winger. He's a good player, but he ain't McKinnon. So that trade was, then you had the Doncic trade, Connor Halley, and, that was huge. Well, the Dallas Stars with their deals, getting Cody Ceci and Granlund in. The JT Miller saga finally ends in Vancouver, although I see now there's another one with Susie. Like, are you kidding me? Is there a more drama-filled team in the NHL than the Vancouver Canucks? I think not. That organization, from top down, it's like that could be a reality show in itself, the Vancouver Canucks. Vinny Desharnais is probably happy to get out of there, to be honest. But so lots of big trades happen, but the Oilers continue to win. How about tonight? The fact that the Edmonton Oilers, if they win tonight, which they should, by the way, because Chicago's brutal. In the calendar year of 25, Chicago has won 14 games. Right? They got the 31st best record, which is what they have all year long. This is who they are. They're the 31st place team in the league. But they have been outshot by an average of 36-22. Every game, Connor. You're getting outshot by 14 shots every night. This is not a very good team at all. And I know they got up 2-0 and 3-1 on the Oilers last month. Edmonton came back. Zach Hyman had the game winner. This is a game I think the Oilers should win. And if they win tonight, and I expect they will have 28 games remaining. They will be 4 points up on Vegas. The Oilers had the second best record in the NHL from November 1st till December 31st. The only team better, Vegas. The Oilers were playing like 700 hockey, and they actually lost 2 points in the standings in those 2 months. But since January 1st, they win tonight. They'll have each 28 games remaining, and the Oilers will have gained 10 points in the first 36 days of the calendar year on Vegas and have an opportunity and what is an NHL record, by the way. Longest drought without winning your division in the regular season, 36 seasons for the Oilers. So it's, there's lots on the line tonight for the Oilers. I know it's Chicago and they're brutal and it's a late start, 8:52 local time, 7:52 our time is when the puck drop is going to go tonight. It's the TNT national game and that's what they do. And Oilers fans, that. We saw it in the playoffs last year. The lovely 8:52 weekday home starts in Edmonton. Like, what a joke. But anyway, that's what's going to go tonight for the Oilers. Calvin Pickard will get the start. We're going to talk about some goaltending. Like, who are these people who keep talking about the Oilers need to upgrade their goaltending? What the hell are they talking about? Like, are they playing a board game called Clue? Because if they're not, they should. They should grab one. Because I'll break down all the numbers for you on where if the Oilers are going to add in a goaltender isn't their issue. It's not. And first of all, who are you going to add? That's it. Everyone, you got to upgrade goalie. Who? Exactly. Because that's where the conversation ends. Because there's no realistic upgrade. And there's no need to upgrade. If you look at value per contract, Stuart Skinner, one of the best, if not the best starting goaltender value contracts in the NHL. Since mid-November, Stuart Skinner amongst starting goaltenders. 4th best save percentage. 5th in goals against. Right up there in wins. What more do you want? And what about Calvin Pickard? So Calvin Pickard is 9-1 in his last 10 starts. Now, because he's a backup, that dates all the way back to November 29th. He's 9-1. On the season, he's 13-4. By the way, he has the most wins of any backup goalie in the league. There's only two others, Marc-Andre Fleury and Joel Hofer, who have double-digit wins. And Pickard has a lower goals against average than both of them. Like, Calvin Pickard's fine as your backup. Fine. He's your backup. Like, who are these great backups that are so much better than Calvin Pickard? I don't get it. Like, I really don't get it. I don't understand. If you want to talk about what the Oilers need, probably have a conversation. Maybe they need a top six winger. But what they need? No, I haven't seen enough of John Klingberg. I recorded all the games. I watched two of them outside of last night's game. Watched the Toronto game where, Edmonton probably should have won that game. He had 48 shots, but Klingberg's, he's been all right. I need to see more. Obviously, I think the organization does. You have the whole month of February, which I know isn't a lot of games. What is it? 8 games in February before and after the break here? Well, not even 8. I guess they got 6 more this month and then a few more in March. But by then, you'll probably have a better sense of what you have in John Klingberg. You definitely see the poise with the puck with Klingberg. There's no doubt about that. Competes pretty hard. Well, it's more about mobility with me. That's what we'll see. We'll talk a little bit about Jeff Skinner, hey, I'll give him credit, man. He has improved his defensive play, no question. But does he skate well enough to be a top 6 guy in the playoffs for you? We'll get into all of that and more. 833-401-1440, 833-401-1440 in our eWell inbox. We got a loaded show. Mike Rupp's going to join us right away. We got Ed Hervey. CFL has an increase in their salary cap, which is good news. Also, the Elks wheeling and dealing during the open window of negotiations that's going on. We got Yurchuk will be by. Rich Winter will join us for the business of sport at 4 o'clock. And Stephen Hauschka, longtime kicker in the NFL, he will join us. Perfect timing, talking Super Bowl. He's been in a Super Bowl. Also, we'll talk about Coach Pete Carroll, what he learned from him. We got Spec, DVD, and a loaded show for you. I'm Jason Gregor. He's Connor Halley. It's the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
A premium
217. Welcome back, Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X, as always, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Oilers in the Windy City tonight to take home the lowly Chicago Blackhawks, a team that is hoping for another high draft pick, and they will have very good odds. Them and the San Jose Sharks have pretty much separated themselves from the rest of the pack to have the two best odds at the upcoming lottery. As we go around the NHL, brought to you by McDonald's, and stop in at McD's right now, of course, as they continue on with the showdown. You can get the Big Mac David. You can get the Matthews burger if you want it. Spicy quarter pounder. Also the triple cheeseburger. Excellent. And I've had a few people text in. They like the new poutine. So check it out for a limited time. Only at McDonald's. As Mike Rupp from the NHL Network, analyst for the Pittsburgh Penguins, joins us. Rupper, let's start with the big news today in Pittsburgh. Sidney Crosby. Now, he did come back in the game, but now today they're saying upper body injury. And I know lots of Canadian fans are like, well, what does this mean for Four Nations? What are you hearing on Crosby?
I don't like what I'm hearing so far. I got nothing more than what you just said right there. But I mean, come on, man. Don't tell me that we've waited this many years to see Sid, Connor, and Nate all on the same team. I hope that it's not in question here. Hopefully it's just something that's very minor and he'll be ready to go. But this was, and this, it's coming from an American-born player. Like, of course I want Team USA to win that tournament, but at the same time, it's more important for me to watch Sidney Crosby play for Canada. Like, we've been waiting for this forever.
Oh, 100%. I think a lot of people are waiting. And honestly, in a season that's going nowhere, unfortunately for the Pittsburgh Penguins, this is probably something that Crosby himself's been really focused on. Yeah,
I mean, even when you look at it from the standpoint in the past All-Star games, right? If you look at how many that Sid has actually been to, I mean, he always puts his team first, and he wants to be ready for the Pittsburgh Penguins come playoff time, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. So I think that this guy would absolutely be all in a tournament like that. He's always going to be when he's got the Canadian sweater on. So, this is. We just hope it's nothing. I really do hope it's just something that will be taken care of here in the very near future.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people think that, Rupper. You look at the Penguins; they made the trade here last week. They move up Marcus Pettersson, and you bring in Vincent Desharnais, and obviously there's other guys moving out in that deal. They get a first round pick, which is what they want. That's obviously the main part of this deal. Do you think Dubas is going to tear this down even more, or is he just going to try to do it like a retooling on the fly?
I think he's going to continue to make deals like he's made. If you go back and you look at the deal that was made for Jake Gensel, and you look at the assets that they just received in this Pettersson O'Connor deal, I really think Kyle Dubas has done a really good job. In the meantime, though, he's going to get NHL caliber players back. It's like there's this fine line where, yes, you're going to retool and infuse youth. They're going to try to stock the cupboards in the American League and get some talent in place, have draft picks, but also get some players that they're NHL players. Like, you still want to, I think they're in Pittsburgh, like they still want to, put it this way, I don't think there's any appetite for the certain players there on that team, the core guys that we're going to talk about, Sid. They don't want to see it just stripped down to nothing. So you got to get guys in there, and that's like Darnay coming, Danton Heinen coming in. They're going to get pros and kind of see what happens. But in the meantime, Kyle Dubas is doing his job by trying to help the future of this franchise.
Looking at the other big deal, and I haven't talked to you since it went down, Rupper, but Carolina, and I've talked about it for years, they needed a big game difference maker. And so they go out and they swing big and they get Mikko Rantanen. And there's a lot of risk here because he doesn't have a contract extension yet. And he still has time, of course, but it's early on. It's just less than 2 weeks. But so far it hasn't been good. The Hurricanes are averaging like 2.2 goals a game since the trade, and Rantanen has 2 points in 5 games. I get that it's very early, but what do you think he's got to do or the Canes got to do to get going?
the only question mark I had coming into it, I think Rantanen is an absolute stud. I think most people would agree with that. You're going to the one team that plays the game differently than most. You have different responsibilities in Carolina. So I thought that it's very easy for people just to say, well, no, he's uber talented. He's gonna figure this out. Well, that's great, but is he going to be able to figure it out within the team concept of what they do on a day-to-day basis? I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, we see this all the time. I mean, I even go back, and I'm not comparing the situations because Carolina is a really good hockey club, but go to Nashville. When you add players to your team that are eating up a lot of minutes, it's tough, and it's tough for those guys to find that groove and get involved there. That's why I always think come playoff time, I like when the trade happens because it gives you a lot of runway to figure these things out, and I think they will figure it out there in Carolina. But that's why, like a lot of times before playoffs, especially when it's happening at deadline time, those little moves, right? The bottom six guys, the maybe third pair defensemen, those are ones that are a lot more easily kind of they convert into your lineup pretty easily. I think they'll be fine, but I love Eric Tulsky going and doing this trade. I mean, a lot of big guts by him. In my mind, I don't see Rantanen re-signing there. I think they got to do everything they can to do it because would be 2 years in a row that you're trading off a lot of assets for and Jake Gensel last year and then Rantanen this year. So we'll see how it plays out. I think it's still early, like you mentioned. I think the best thing they did is they did this way before the deadline, so they've got some more games to get under their belt before the playoffs.
Well, yeah, I guess longer is always better, and I think that's probably why, especially with this year's break, you want to get guys into your team a little bit earlier than normal anyway, because now you'll come out of that Four Nations break, and you got 2 weeks before the trade deadline. So, some guys just come off of holidays and then they're going to be packing up and moving to another team in 2 weeks. It could be maybe more stressful. So I understand why they did it, but they're going to have to get him going for sure. What about from Colorado's standpoint? Are you surprised that they made that deal? Especially now, guys can say things after the fact, but he's like, well, I would have re-signed for less. What do you make of that comment from Rantanen?
It's your point. It's easy to say that now. I also have heard through the grapevine, pretty low maintenance guy. He loved being in Colorado and probably would have taken a discount. But here's where it gets interesting. In a healthy marketplace, I think in the NHL, and it's a healthy marketplace. Like the best player in the world is Connor, right? We know this. But it doesn't mean that Connor has to be the highest paid. The whole point, and the NHLPA loves this, you got to bunny hop guys. And you might have that little stretch. And I think if Mikko Rantanen hit the open market, maybe if it was just coming straight from Colorado to the open market, he probably should be the highest paid player in the league for the time being until you have, whether it's Connor or whether the next guy, you know what I mean? Like that is the healthy marketplace for players. And that's what you want. Now, would he have taken that much less? I don't know. I don't know how much the cap, when it came out the other day, the projections over the next 3 years, that makes it look like it was a bad trade because it's like, oh, you're going to have a lot more money in the system. But I'm sure all the teams know and are aware of that and are in constant contact with the Players Association in the league on what the future is for the cap. I'll say this though, I kind of think he's taken some heat in Chris McFarland. I kind of think it could pay off. You never know or couldn't guarantee if Rantanen was going to come in there. I don't think Colorado could have made him the highest paid player in hockey. And now all of a sudden you're sitting here and you're like, well, they got some pieces for him. They are able to move him for something. I mean, I sit there and think about it. Well, hey, what if Toronto was a little bit more proactive like this? And with Mitch Marner, I mean, what's going to happen to Toronto if Mitch Marner does something or walks on them? It's a very unique situation. It's certainly surprised me, but I'm not ready to say that the Colorado Avalanche lost on this trade quite yet.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this about Rantanen. I don't think he's better than Leon Draisaitl, whose contract will start at the exact same time that Rantanen starts. And yeah. I'd heard some people suggest, well, he should get more than Draisaitl. I'm like, well, based on what? He's not a center, right? He doesn't score as much as Draisaitl, never has. He's never won a Hart, right? And Draisaitl's probably the front runner for the Hart this year right now, so he could win his second one. And I wouldn't pay him more than McKinnon even, to be honest. I can think you could make an argument that Nate McKinnon's the guy who drives that bus. And so I look at Rantanen, and if he doesn't put up good numbers in Carolina, Rupper, I wonder how much that's really going to cost him on the open market, because some teams might say, oh, geez. Now, I know it's only 3 months, but without Nathan MacKinnon, he wasn't close to the same productive player as he was with Nathan MacKinnon.
No, I think it's a delicate spot. He's got to have production here. He's got to go on a run here in Carolina. I wonder if this would be absolutely nuts, but we've been seeing these trades in different sports even. It seems like a crazy time. I wonder if they start having conversations on an extension if it doesn't happen, if he moves somewhere else again. Like I don't imagine that. I don't imagine that happening, but I think that if you're you got to do your due diligence if you're the Carolina Hurricanes. I agree with everything you said. I don't think in those situations, Leon Draisaitl's a better hockey player. I mean, there's no question in my mind. There's no hesitation who I'd rather have on my club. In that positional side of it is huge, that Leon is a centerman. But somebody out there would give Mikko Rantanen whatever he wants. And you don't come across guys of that size, that ilk, that skill very often. If he hit the open market, and that's where it gets tough as a player too, probably a place that he would have to go is a team that's not good. Was he want that? I mean, I don't think that he's going to be the highest paid player in hockey, but the situation and the table has been set where I think it could be available for him if he really wanted to chase it.
That's fair. Quickly, Rupper, Drew Doughty, and I always like Drew's confidence. He's like, man, I'd like to play. Alex Pietrangelo is not playing. If you're Team Canada, and I know Doughty hasn't played much of the season, but he's going to play, would you pick him to replace Pietrangelo, or would you pick someone else?
On reputation, I would absolutely pick Drew Doughty. I will say this, though, from watching what I've seen of him when he's been back with the Kings, he's been on the ice a lot of goals against. Yeah. I mean, so like, if I'm being honest, Drew Doughty's Drew Doughty. So I don't question that guy at all. I mean, he earns and deserves that equity that he's built with me and everybody that's watched him. But the nature of it is he hasn't played in hockey this year very much.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look very sharp right now. This is like a couple game tournament.
Yeah.
Like, can we afford to not have Petro there and go with a guy like that? He, hands down, without a doubt, would be the guy that I would take. But if it's not him, if they make that tough decision and maybe it's not him, honestly, I kind of think Mackenzie Weegar. Like, Weegar might be a guy that I think would give them it's like a little bit of an insurance policy. You could do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I just think there's a pretty significant drop off after Drew Doughty as far as what they could bring to the table. I just don't know how much emphasis they're putting on his games in the last week or so.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a fair point. He's been on the ice in all situations, 5 goals against, 3 of them at 5-on-5, 2 shorthanded in 75 minutes of play for the LA Kings thus far. So yeah, it's early on. It's not ideal, but it's a fascinating conversation, and one I think if you're Canada, you're going to wait the last possible moment just to see what he does, what Weegar does, and any of the other guys potentially.
Like, isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy to think that Drew Doughty is on a tryout the next couple games? Like, he's got a couple games here to kind of prove that he's worth it. They know he's worth it. That his game is up to par where it needs to be to play for a nation.
Yeah, Rupper, great stuff as always, man. We appreciate it. Have yourself an awesome day.
Awesome, Greg. Enjoy, buddy.
There you go. That's Mike Rupp. Joins us from the NHL Network, and of course, analyst for the Pittsburgh Penguins. The latest on Sidney Crosby. I know Canada. I think Rupper speaks for a lot of people, and he's not even Canadian. He's American, and he's like, man, I've been waiting to see McKinnon and McDavid and Crosby on the same team forever. It's never happened. It's been 11 years since Canada had all their best available players on one team. Right? We can't include 2016 because McDavid and some of the other young guys were on the Young Guns team. So it would be nice. Crosby did return, if you missed it last night. Like, the collision, it didn't look like anything, but it definitely looked like it's like left shoulder. And anybody, all it takes sometimes if your shoulder, you get a shoulder strain, you just get hit the wrong way and it just slides out. And he did come back in the game, but that's one thing. All of a sudden you sleep on it. Your adrenaline wears off, and now the next day, and they're saying it's an upper body injury for Sidney Crosby. No timeline for him, but definitely would be a disappointment for sure if he's not there. So 833-401-1440, 833-401-1440. Hey, Gregor, welcome back. What do you think about the three Blues players who were on the ice for the overtime goal last night? I kind of chuckled from Eddie. Well, hey, you know what? Just Connor McDavid has undressed many good players in the NHL. I can't rip on Dylan Holloway, who's not a defenseman, who gets walked by McDavid on a bouncing puck, by the way, in the slot area. Like, what's Holloway supposed to do there? You put 99%, maybe 100% of the players in that spot in 3-on-3, where the quick turnaround, it's hard not to get walked there. It's just, you got the fastest player in the game with maybe the fastest hands with speed in the game. What do you do? It's a tough one. But I do love the fact, you know what? Hey, former players, hey, you might have liked them on your team and now they're not. I get why fans like, hey, it's awesome to see them lose. I totally understand it. That's the point of being a fan. That's how you should be, I would think. Hey, boys, that series sounds great. They could just call it The Real Housewives of Vancouver from Gordo. But honestly, like, let's be real. You finally get rid of JT Miller. And was it even 72 hours or 24? Now it's like, oh, Carson Soucy, healthy scratch. They want to get rid of him. He doesn't want to waive his deal. And you're just like, it's never ending. It's just never ending in Vancouver. And right, like, they're in a battle for their playoff lives because the Calgary Flames are not going anywhere. And think about that for a moment. I think if I had to ask Oiler fans right now, who would you want to see in the playoffs if you had to pick between Calgary and Vancouver? I think Oiler fans would say Calgary. And for a long time, like, Oiler fans used to hate the Flames, but I do think Vancouver, and part of it is, honestly, I think part of it comes from their fan base, how they interact, and even how their team's covered. I think they're pretty unlikable when you think about it. But you know what? They're tied here with 59 points. The Flames have 2 more wins, so that's why they have the playoff spot here. They each have 53 games played. And they're only, wait, don't look now. Now the Kings have games in hand, so that skews it a little bit. But the LA Kings are floundering a little bit, and all of a sudden, the Flames and the Canucks are 1 point back of them. So we'll see. The Oilers, a win tonight, puts them 4 up on Vegas. It's huge for the Oilers because they have the NHL record longest drought ever. And theirs is active, but ever. 36 seasons without winning their division, finishing first in their division in the regular season. Last time, 1987. The Islanders are next at 35 years, and theirs is active. They were 1980 active. 32. The Leafs was 68 to 99. And the Arizona Coyotes / Winnipeg Jets, that organization, from 1980 through until 2011 before they finally finished first in their division. So there's only been 5 organizations that have ever gone 30 years without winning their division. And the Oilers, it's the longest, but they could end it this year. And they're rolling pretty well right now. You get up 4 points. You get up on Vegas 4 points. The remaining schedule after tonight, Edmonton has a few more games against, the top, and I use top 11 because Vegas and Edmonton are both in there. So, there's 10 other top 10 teams outside themselves. Then there's 11 middle and then the bottom 10. The Oilers have more games left against the bottom and the middle than Vegas does. But they have 3 more games against the top teams. So we'll see. It's a pretty favorable schedule. If I looked at strength of schedule down this, I bet you Edmonton might be slightly ahead of Vegas. Back-to-backs after tonight. The Oilers have 4. Vegas has 5. Road games, home games, pretty even. And Vegas is struggling. They can't score. Like, you look at up and down their lineup right now. They got a lot of guys. Like, they got a lot of Connor Browns. Connor Brown finally ended his drought last night. It was 22 games without a goal. 21, excuse me. And ends at his first goal in 22 games. Which is just another example of Chris Knobloch, Connor. And I don't know if people have talked about that, but which coach, and by the way, it's not like Connor Brown's one of your top 6 guys who's in an extended drought. So you're like, we got to get him out there. He's a bottom 6 player who's played pretty well, but got rewarded even with some time in the top 6 for a while, but didn't score. And now he's back where he is. He's a bottom 6 player, which is nothing wrong with that. And then to put him out in overtime where he never really plays and he scores. Like Chris Knobloch, he just seems to push the right buttons at the right time.
Nice finish, too. Like, I kind of joked for a second there. They shoot different-handed, I know, but I was like, is that Leon Draisaitl? Like, gets down on the knee for the leverage, buries it, and a luxury for the Oilers because we've seen that where, Connor McDavid out of the lineup for the suspension. Oh, we'll just slide Nugent Hopkins down to play second or third line center. You got the players to do so. We'll bump Connor Brown up for a couple games here and there. Hyman can go down to the third line. It really is a luxury, but yes, Chris Knobloch seems to have a knack for knowing when to get the guys going, when to give them that opportunity. And I think Connor Brown's smart enough, has played around Connor McDavid enough to know, go to the net, be ready, get to the open spot, and bury it. It was a great finish, but I think it's also just high IQ, knowing where to be when you're playing with Connor McDavid.
Yeah, well, you got to be in the right spot. There's no question. So we'll talk about that a lot. We got Ed Hervey joining us next. Cons, before I went all, we've been talking about what's going to be the main focal point of the Elks. It's going to be the D-line. Well, they signed a lot of guys on the D-line. Well, they've agreed to we'll talk to Ed Hervey about how that works with the negotiation. Do all these become official on the 8th? We'll find out next. Also, there's been a raise in the salary cap in the CFL, so that gives them a little bit more flexibility. And they got their linebacking core back, which I think is big. But the improvements on the D-line and the O-line, we'll discuss it next on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Welcome back. It is game day on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X. The Oilers in Chicago tonight. Remember, a little bit of a late start for a Wednesday. It'll be 8:52 Chicago time, but 7:52 puck drop. Gotta love the national doubleheaders on TNT. So no reason to rush home tonight. You got a lot of time before you watch the Oilers look to get a victory, sweep the back-to-back in Chicago and St. Louis, move 4 points up on Vegas in the Pacific Division, and stay in striking distance of the surging Winnipeg Jets, who have won 7 in a row. And the Oilers are currently 9 points back of Winnipeg for first in the Western Conference, but they have 2 games in hand. So win 1, and they'll be within 7. We're going to get to our football report, brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling. And they are hiring HVAC installers and plumbers. There's a starting bonus for the right candidate, strong benefits, RRSP matching, tuition reimbursement. Apply today at legacyheating.ca, as we'll be joined by the general manager of the Edmonton Elks, Ed Hervey. Momentarily, of course, the Elks have he's been busy as it's the negotiating window in the CFL, and the Elks have been very busy. Lots of guys that they've agreed to now. They've agreed to these deals that can't officially be announced for a few days, but guys like Jake Serezna and others should be coming to the green and gold this upcoming season. Also, Niles Morgan, their linebacker, who has the most tackles in the CFL the last 2 years. Which, I'll be honest, that just means your defense isn't that great. You know, if your linebacker is constantly having to make that many tackles, and last year the Elks had 2 linebackers with 100+ tackles, it's because guys are getting to the second level too often. And Hervey had made it. He said his big priority was improving the D-line and the O-line. And that's been the main focus of what they've done. You know, even Brett Boyko, they released him, allowed him to test free agency in that negotiating window, found that, you know what, there was nothing better on the other side. Now, that's very similar to what Ken Holland did with Evander Kane a few years ago. Right? You get into, hey, we're willing to pay you this. And the guy's like, well, I think I can get more. Okay, here you go. Go find out. And guess what? You can't. So, you know, it's a smart move. You know, and the player can't be mad because he gave him the opportunity and actually did it in advance so he could get in rather than wait until, because any player who's under contract, right, you have it. So you just gave him an advanced window, a few extra days to talk to those guys. And Boyko finds out, guess what? Grass isn't greener. And comes right back. So that's good. And Ed Hervey joins us now. Ed, welcome back to the show, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Jason?
Excellent. I see, Ed, this open window of negotiation. So the contracts, you know, you talk to players. Now, can you agree on a contract that just can't be officially signed? What's the actual rules for this week leading up to, I guess, signing day?
Yeah, this is the week where obviously communication with the players, when it's legal, you call it, like, quote, legal tampering period, where we have a chance to introduce ourselves to the players, talk to them about our opportunities, our organization, our vision, talk to them about their, you know, how we see their fit with our football team and all those different things, that we kind of get to know them. And then we talk with their agents about terms, and sometimes it takes a few days, sometimes it takes a few hours, and, you know, we get terms agreed to, and then it's a verbal, right? There's no binding offer sheet that we have that, like other places. I mean, you know, with the CFL, you know, it would be great to get that part done. I think, you know, baby steps, right? We'll take baby steps, but you know, I also believe in the integrity of the players in their word, that when they give us their commitment, and that's kind of what it's based on, right? It's just based on you know, people's word, and then a week from now, we get the window opens up, and we officially can sign them and proceed with our offseason.
In your experience, Ed, have you ever had a player that you guys verbally agreed to and then didn't sign?
Not. I mean, last year I had an experience after he talked with the coaches. He decided he didn't want to come to Hamilton, but that was one case.
Okay.
Yeah, but outside of that, no, not really. I mean, we didn't really have we had a soft commitment there, but no, every other time the players have followed through on their commitment, and they were happy and and excited about joining.
Okay. So, the players that are out there, is it safe to say the reports, I know when you and I talked last, you made it clear that your offensive line and your defensive line were areas you wanted to improve. And there are other areas, of course, but, Jake Serezna, somebody the organization knows, he knows the city. Brett Boyko, you let him test free agency and then he re-signs. You re-sign Niles Morgan. You've got Royce Mechie you're connected to, David Beard you're connected to. Do you feel pretty happy in the talks that you've had so far with players?
Yeah, I feel that myself and Mark and our staff, we've done an excellent job with respect to just painting a clear picture on what our vision is here in Edmonton. I've made it quite clear. My talks with the players is that the responsibility of changing the narrative here in Edmonton, and we're looking for impact players to help us do that. I mean, we have a franchise, a beloved franchise here in not only in Edmonton but in the CFL that oftentimes has had crowds less than 10,000 people, and we need to change that. Right, it's the responsibility of all of us that we make the teams that are struggling. There have to be a change. And how do you change that? You change that with the elite players. But the elite players have to be willing to take that on, and it's not for everyone. And I was quite happy with the response that we were given with guys who were up for that challenge and looking to make a difference here in Edmonton and with our team. And, I was quite pleased with that. And like anything, right? Like, obviously we have to wait and hold out and continue to talk to our guys and prepare for next week. But I think guys are, buying into the fact that, in fact, the water in Edmonton is warming up and it's not this place that people dread going to. And I think that we've done a decent job so far of expressing that to the potential free agents.
Ed Hervey joins us. David Beard, Brett Boyko. So with David Beard coming in, would it be safe to say that Mark Corte is going to move to guard? Would that be the plan?
Yeah, that's what was discussed in prior to it. Obviously Mark and I had a chance to talk about it. I sat down with him and asked him his thoughts on David returning before we actually pursued it. And, he was excited about the opportunity of having David back. He was, very, responded really well to it. And I mean, I didn't expect anything less, just the pro that he had shown himself to be during his entire time in the league and all that I've heard about him. But, Mark is a guy that he played tackle in this league. So he's been up and down the line, and he's willing to make this change to improve not only our offensive line, but also improve the overall team by having David. David, we're a better team with David Beard on our football team, and we're a better organization as well.
Terrell Ford, twin brother to starting quarterback Trey Ford. He's a Canadian. He's a difference maker on the field, but he's also a difference maker on the roster because he's starting Canadian. And, there's reports that you guys have a 2-year deal done with him. Tell me about that negotiation. And, it's kind of unique, obviously, to have twin brothers on the same team, but he's a really good player, and he's a ratio breaker.
Yeah, we obviously the negotiations, we kind of went in knowing that, the brothers wanted to play with each other, but we didn't go in with that as, feeling like that was an advantage for us. We went in still with the same mindset that we were going to pay Tyrell, his market. He's a good player regardless of whose brother he is.
Yeah.
We wanted him on our football team, and to add to that, his ratio flexibility, it makes us a stronger football team. We're looking for that type of flexibility on our entire roster. The strategy going in was to improve our national starting depth of our roster, and in those things you have to go out and you have to pay for it. But he's an excellent player, excellent ball skills, and we believe that he's going to have his arrows pointing up, and his future is going to be bright. And barring any type of injuries or anything like that, we expect high level of play, and we're really excited to have him.
What about the kicking game? Boris Beatty gets released. Is the plan to go with Blanchard and Fair and have them battle it out, or are you looking at other guys?
Well, yeah, there's that, and then there's obviously there's some opportunities to bring some guys in. Obviously, with the ratio flexibility that we intend to have, there's a great possibility that we could have an American kicker. You got to have the ratio flexibility with your nationals to be able to give yourself the strength to play and the flexibility to play players elsewhere. Obviously the kicking is going to be very important to us, and that competition is going to be one that we're going to keep an eye on. But as I stated before, just having ratio flexibility is very important, because then it gives us a chance going into training camp to be able to truly evaluate the roster and truly evaluate our American talent and see where we want to place them. And if the punting game and the kicking game is something that we want to explore, we'll have that flexibility as well.
Ed Hervey joins us, GM of the Edmonton Elks. Ed, of course, you've overseen the draft for over 20 years almost, and you look at the draft class now. You guys don't have your first round selection. What's your thoughts on the depth of this draft class? Is there one or two positions that are deeper than others?
Well, with respect to the draft, I mean, there are a couple of positions. I don't want to, being that we only have a second round pick, I can't get into, where we see ourselves. If I was picking number one, I'd be able to talk more freely about it. But with respect to, I think there's going to be an opportunity for us to get a pretty good player, but the real depth of the draft is going to be next year.
Okay.
As we all know, because a lot of players have deferred with all the COVID stuff, but there's no question that we'll be able to find ourselves a quality national player to come in. It's just a matter, again, coming out of free agency and going into the draft. What is the best player for us? Is it going to be the best? Is it going to be the best lineman that's available, or where do we go? I think we have a lot of opportunity there to really evaluate, and over the course of the next few weeks, we're definitely going to identify that, but we're just really excited about the opportunity to draft and really build a roster. I just looking back on it, obviously we using the first round pick, we got a quality player in that, but you always want to have your first round pick if you can have them going into a draft, just so you can give yourself a chance at looking at the future the way we see it.
When you look, Ed, the announcement that came out today in the CFL, the salary cap's going to be going up almost 10%, a significant amount. More money is good, but it can also mean more problems. It doesn't mean you just spend willy-nilly, but that big of a jump in 1 year, how does that make your job easier? How do you plan to use that extra cash?
Well, it was just given to me this morning. Like, I just found out about it, so we're still trying to sort through it, and we're waiting to see what how it all going to get shaped out. Like, I'm waiting for instruction is basically the best way I could put it. As far as something official from the league, I have not received anything that confirms anything other than a statement. But, we have some other stuff that we get usually from the league office that kind of explains things a little more detailed. So quite honestly, I'm not even at liberty to talk much about what's going on, because I haven't seen enough information to give you an answer that even would make sense at this point.
Okay. Lastly, you look ahead. You've talked a lot about wanting to rebuild the culture, and started. Chris Morris mentioned it when he took over as president for the organization, and it's not just a quick fix, Ed. It's one where it takes a lot of time. Well, what are some of the things that your coaching staff, yourself and Chris, how do you plan to get that in place? Is it starting already now with meetings of the players? Is it easier when you get all the guys together? How do you get the culture going in the direction you want?
Well, I think what ends up happening with culture is how we treat each other.
Okay.
Right. It starts there. Right. We're talking about Chris and myself, the relationship that we have, and the relationship that Mark and I have, and all three of us, and it works through the entire organization. Everyone in the organization has to see how we conduct ourselves. It's a people business, and if we're in here showing day to day that we're obviously hard workers, we're kind to each other, we're able to really get down to what we need to get done. We're going to set the example not only for the people in the building to follow, but also when the returning players are going to see something different than they've seen in recent years, and new players are going to see the example set by which direction the organization is headed. And from there, I think that's when you start talking about shifting culture, right? Where we're able to really look at one another and know come hell or high water, doing the good times, the bad times, 3-game winning streak, 2 or 3 game losing streak, everything is steady, but no one's panicking. We're not panicking inside the building. We're damn sure not panicking on the field or in the locker room, in the coaching area. And we're just staying steady. And if we can create an environment that is positive and one that is, that believes in itself and believes that we are going to be successful, that in itself is going to give us the advantage that we need moving forward. We eliminate negativity. We eliminate people, that doubt that creeps in. And I tell everybody all the time, you got to walk around like a winner, and you got to walk around like you got $1 million lottery ticket in your pocket, even on the bad days, because, this thing is going to turn, and we're going to turn it, and it's going to turn for the better. So, that's really where it starts. Right? It's just we got to maintain that level of confidence and that level of professionalism with each other, and then that will permeate through the entire organization with everyone all the way through to the players and how we treat our partners as well.
Ed, always great to talk to you, my man, and enjoy the offseason. When officially can you announce can you take the verbals and make them actual contracts?
Yeah, it'll be next Tuesday.
Okay.
Right. And I think free agency opens up 12, Eastern. So we'll get rolling in. And my hope is we're hoping to have a big event for the players. When they get here, we're going to get them here, and we invite our fans to some events. And like I said, we're really just working on reconnecting and reestablishing our not only our reputation, but our connection within the community. So we're kind of working on that at the moment, but our fans can expect many opportunities for us to build an alliance with them, and we're looking forward to just doing those things. But next week will be the time, and there's going to be exciting times when the players get here.
Ed, great stuff, man. We appreciate it. Who are you picking in the Super Bowl?
The Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. What year are we in? Like year 2075? Are they ever going to get back to the Super Bowl?
Next year.
Next year. Oh man.
So I'll go with the NFC.
Go with the NFC.
We'll go with the Eagles. We'll go with the Eagles.
Okay. All right. So I kind of like to see history made. No one's ever won 3 in a row in the CFL and the NFL, of course. But
yeah. I mean, it could happen. I mean, they got a 50-50 shot at it. You asked me to pick a side. I'm picking
nothing wrong with it. Hey, they can run the ball right now. The Eagles can. No one's been able to stop them. So should be
absolutely.
It should be good. Thanks, Ed. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Take it easy.
Right. We might have to get Ed and Struds and Connor. Just get them all together. Hey, next year for the Cowboys, next year for the Giants, next year for the Chargers. Eh, Cons? That's how you got to go into it, right? Got to go into it that way.
Yeah. Are the Chargers as delusional as the Cowboys and the Giants right now? Maybe I am, yeah. Hey, Harbaugh, he does 2 things. He wins and maybe he cheats, but he wins football games. But yeah, Cowboys would be something.
Oh, man. What? I don't know about. I honestly don't know. Like, Jerry Jones. I just don't know. Well, I think the numbers prove it. That I don't think his football decisions are equal to his business decisions. Is that fair to say? He's been hugely successful in business, right? Building that facility, fantastic. When it comes to building a winning team, no.
Yeah. And we kind of saw his son, Steven, take over and make some smarter decisions. Like, I think it was the Johnny Manziel draft. Like, no, we're going to take an offensive lineman. And he's kind of getting them in the right direction. Fell off this year, and maybe Jerry's getting back into it. But yeah, I would trust him a little more with his business decisions than his football decisions. Keeps him in the headlines, though.
Oh, it's true. Quick break. We'll return. Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. Let's get to the comment. And a Sports 1440 update brought to you by Booster Juice. And, every day in February, Booster Juice is giving away free smoothie to different people just for your name. And today, on the 5th of February, if your name is Lisa or Jaspreet, stop in at Booster Juice. You'll get a free one.
The Sports 1440 update.
It's game day. The Oilers in Chicago take on the Blackhawks. Puck drop closer to 7:53 on this one. We got pregame coverage for you. Andrew Walker and Donovan Paulson at 6 o'clock right here on Sports 1440. Also tonight, Rangers and Bruins meeting at 5. Then at 8:30, the Canadiens in LA to take on the Kings. Sidney Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins missing practice today. He's being evaluated for an upper body injury, according to head coach Mike Sullivan. Crosby left the game in the third period last night after an awkward collision in the Devils' blue line. He did return 10 minutes later. In the association, the Toronto Raptors hosting the Memphis Grizzlies. That one gets going at 5:30. Elsewhere, Heat take on the Sixers. Hawks host the Spurs. Pistons up against the Cavaliers. The Bucks in Charlotte. Jazz taking on the Warriors. Suns in OKC. And the Kings hosting the Magic. In the AJ, Sherwood Park will host Okotoks tonight. The Down through Silent Ice. And that one gets going at 7 o'clock. In the WHL, Wenatchee's in Regina. Calgary hosting PA. And the Rockets take on Victoria. Coming up in hour 2 of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll be joined by Oilers Nation's Tyler Yaremchuk and ask 5 questions. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
President of Cantork. Since 2016, we've been at the forefront of hydraulic torque wrenches in Canada. I'm delighted to share our latest venture, in-house production for quicker turnaround, superior quality, and heightened versatility. Experience excellence at Cantork.com.
At Leading Edge Physiotherapy, we believe in the wisdom of Patch Adams. Treat a disease, you win, you lose. treat a person, I guarantee you'll win no matter what the outcome. We don't treat conditions, we treat people. From personalized treatment plans to compassionate care, we're committed to helping you achieve your goal. That's why hands-on techniques, unique technologies, and a commitment to hiring amazing people mixed with friendly, fun neighborhood environments. And ta-da! No, it's not magic. It's about being human. Sometimes being human hurts, but life shouldn't hurt. LeadingEdgePhysio.com.
Hockey is back, and Play Alberta, Alberta's #1 sportsbook and official partner of the Edmonton Oilers, has you covered with bigger offers, boosted odds, live betting, player props, and more. New to Play Alberta? New players now receive $200 in free bets just for signing up. You already play? Get a $10 free bet for every $100 you bet. Every week, all season long. Visit playalberta.ca and make your picks today. Bonus terms and conditions apply.
At Hughes, it's all about getting in and out quick and clean. No cash, no problem. With Hughes' new tap and wash system, all you need is your debit or credit card to get your vehicle sparkling clean.
Find us at HughesCarWash.com.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Papa John's. Make your game day feast better with Papa John's. Take 25% off any regular pizza order at papajohns.ca using code word GAME25, papajohns.ca, or through the Papa John's app.
The Jason Gregor Show, the best of Edmonton sports talk and beyond. This is Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Just after 3 o'clock, Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X. It is the Jason Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Hope you are having a wonderful day. Be sure to use the promo code Gregor50 and get your free $50 play. Every month you get a new one. So you know what? You don't have to waste it. You can wait till the last day of February and then use it on the first day of March if you like. Go back to back, however you like it. Check it out at playalberta.ca. The Edmonton Oilers are in Chicago tonight to take on the Chicago Blackhawks as we get to the Oil Report brought to you by Volvo Cars Edmonton. Right now, you could lease a 2025 XC90 plug-in hybrid from 1.49% and save $4,500 at Volvo Cars Edmonton. The Oilers, we won't know officially the lineup until game time. Adam Henrique did not play last night due to illness. It'll be a game time decision. If he can play, usually Knobloch doesn't like to have guys miss both ends of the back-to-back. So if he's healthy, I think there's a good chance he'll be in the lineup. We do know that Calvin Pickard will be getting the start in goal. Pickard is 9-1 in his last 10. And really, if you go back to Calvin Pickard's season, and on this season, he's a .901 save percentage, and everyone's like, oh, that doesn't look good. Okay, how about just take out his first game of the year, which was against Chicago, right? The Oilers were terrible. The whole team was terrible their first 3 games. And he allowed 5 goals and 20 shots. So in his 16 starts since, he has a .909 save percentage and a .232 goals against average. Like, those are stellar numbers. And by the way, he's 13-3. If you can get your backup to start 20 games for you, 25 games, and be 500, you're pretty happy. He's 13-4. I see a lot of, well, but I don't like this goal. Oh, you know what? His goals saved above expected. What does that have to do with anything? What does goals saved above expected really mean? Honestly, And keep in mind that, and which site are you using? Because goals saved above expected on this site are different than goals saved above expected on that site. So which one? Is it when he's minus 2.4 and others have him at minus 1.8? That's a pretty significant difference. So which one is it? Right? That's my concern with those. They're great. You can use it as a guideline, but to base goals saved above expected, more important, what wins you games? Goals. It's just like save percentage. I don't care if my goalie allows 3 goals on 30 shots or 3 goals on 24 shots, because those extra 6 shots might be shots from the outside that mean absolutely nothing. Like, look at last night, for instance, against the Blues. The Oilers were out shooting them at 1.9-2, but both of St. Louis's shots on goals were grade A chances that Robert Thomas got robbed by Stuart Skinner. Both of them. Now, the shots were 9-2. How many grade A stops had Binnington made in the first 9? 1. So even though Edmonton was out shooting them like 4.5-1, the scoring chances were actually more in favor of St. Louis early in that game. So to me, you can look at a lot of things. Scoring chances matter, but ultimately it's which ones go in. At the end of the day, do you allow less goals than the opposing? I don't care. Like, if the Oilers get 48 shots and they can't score, that's not my goalie's fault. Wow, we gave up 25 and lost 3-2. Yeah, but how many scoring chances? How many quality chances did you have? And sometimes your forwards got to bury them. Like, do you think Robert Thomas, people are going to say, wow, geez, he just missed the net. That's okay. Like, I find it odd that in 2025, people will rip apart a goaltender if he lets in a go. Oh, geez, he kicked out a juicy rebound. And they will talk about a juicy rebound and be frustrated for a guy misses an empty net. I missed an empty net. Geez, it happens. What? How? How is that acceptable? Then, goalie gave out a big rebound. Or the goalie's down and out. All you got to do as a forward in the NHL is raise the puck over the goalie's pad and you score. But you don't get it up. It doesn't get talked about nearly as much as a, quote, juicy rebound. I find it interesting that the Oilers, you look at where they are in goals for and goals against. And the Oilers, since November, let's go back to November 1st. Because the month of October, you kind of have the hangover from losing. And I looked it up for the last 11 years now. Teams are basically 500. The teams that lost in the Stanley Cup final the year before. Only one team won more than 5 games, and that was Boston after they lost the Cup in 2000. When did they lose that? Was that 18? 19 to the Blues. So the next year, they won 7 of their first 10. The only team, most of the other ones are 5-4, 5-5, 5-4-1, etc. And the Oilers, they were 4-5-1. Then you get to November, and since then, the Oilers have the second best record in the NHL. And you know where they are in goals for? First, and they're 4th in goals against. Like, I get that people want a perfect team. There's no such thing as a perfect team. Right? I'll read. Hey, guys, the problem with Stuart Skinner is you get to the Stanley Cup, he's the worst goalie of the 5 that will be there. And if you're concerned with Hellebuck, you're not. We would already have 1 or 2 cups if we had a top goalie. From Rod. Hey, Rod, did you check out Hellebuck's playoff numbers the last 2 years? When teams drill down, and Kevin Woodley's talked about this, you get into the playoffs, you only focus on one goalie. And you can, every goal, even Connor Hellebuyck, every goalie has tendencies, every goalie has weaknesses. Connor Hellebuyck allowed 28 goals in 5 games last year in the playoffs. Now, were they all his fault? Of course not. But to have a winning team, you need lots of aspects. And to say, well, if we'd have Hellebuyck, we'd win. Well, no, you wouldn't, because you wouldn't have a starting goalie making $2.6 million. So where is the other, where are you going to change? Where is the other money going to go? Right? Who's going out? Who don't you have? It can't just be, well, if we put Hellebuyck on our team, we win. It's not how it works in a salary cap era. Right? You got to take Hellebuck's contract. Well, then who goes out? Right? There's lots of different pieces to it. And last I checked, Stuart Skinner in the conference final against the Dallas Stars was better than Jake Ottinger. And he stole the Oilers game 6 on home ice. They played brutal, except him. 34-10 were the shots, and the Oilers won the game 2-1. Skinner was great. So don't say he can't win a big game, because it's false. It's right there. They were down 3-0 in the Cup final. He won 3 straight to get him back. They lost game 7, allowed 2 goals. Now people will freak out. Well, I didn't like the second goal, so that means he's terrible. No, it doesn't. It's one play. Stuart Skinner's not nearly the concern that a lot of people make it out to be at all. He's still very young in games played, history-wise. All right. And people are, well, Gregor, he can win, but he's not consistent. Yeah, welcome to NHL goaltending, people. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Most of you watch the Oilers, as you should. You don't have enough time to watch all the other leagues. I get it. But do you think Skinner is the only inconsistent goalie around the NHL? Honestly, is that what you believe? Because how can he be that inconsistent? Yet since November 1st, Stuart Skinner has the 4th best save percentage among starting goaltenders and the 5th best goals against average. So if he's that inconsistent, how does it match? We're talking over 3 months now, since November 1st till now. 4th best save percentage. And by the way, he doesn't face as many shots as other goalies. Edmonton doesn't give up a lot of freebie shots. Now, they give up some quality chances, for sure. Right? The Oilers are kind of middle of the road. They're not elite in it. They're not terrible by any stretch. I think I got to talk to Woodley. Last time I talked to him, I thought Edmonton was like somewhere in the top 10. They're pretty good, like most teams are. Right? There's very few goalies that are at the top whose teams are just leaking chances all over. Not in today's game. Doesn't work. But if he's that inconsistent because he might have one game that you don't like, but did he not play great against Buffalo and win them the game? Did he not play very well last night against St. Louis? Look at some of the saves he made in that game. I didn't have a problem with any of the goals that went in. So I think sometimes people, you make your evaluation of a player and then you start, well, I can never change it. Stuart Skinner's never going to be good enough for me. Well, that's not how evaluation works. It's always evolving and changing. Just as the player's game has to evolve and change. And I look at Skinner's numbers and first of all, name a starting goalie who's available that's better. And please don't tell me John Gibson. How is John Gibson better? Based on what? Now, and here's another one. Because when you say saves above expected, well, Anaheim's defense, their goaltender gets put in positions to make some saves that the formula deems goal saved above expected. So they're put in that position way more, so they'll make a few more of those saves. But they also have a way higher goals against and a way lower goals against average. So what does it really mean? Right? When I look at Stuart Skinner's play, and you're talking, pretty large sample size, where you say, hey, Stuart Skinner's been pretty good for your team. Right? Is he an elite goaltender? No. But you can't have elite at every position. It's rare. Now, Tampa Bay lucked out and they did it. Right? They had an elite defenseman. They had an elite center. They had an elite winger. And they had an elite goalie. Then they got back-to-back cups. So, yeah, it can happen, but it's pretty rare. Right? It's hard to have. And Stuart Skinner doesn't need to be elite. He just needs to be pretty good, which he was last year. Yeah, he had a few games against Vancouver he didn't like. That's fine. But you can't just focus on those 2 games and it erases everything else that happened after the fact. Did you know his last 15 games in the NHL playoffs last year, he had the exact same save percentage as Bobrovsky and a lower goals against average. Right? Like Edmonton came one goal away from winning the Cup. And if you're going to say it was just because of Stu Skinner, I think that's a little misguided because Edmonton only scored 1 goal in Game 7 of Stanley. How many times? You know how many games in the NHL you win when you score 2 goals or less? 8.7%. That's it. So you want to blame Stu Skinner because it's easy, and some people want to blame someone, but your offense didn't show up in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. It happens. It's not just on one guy. I don't get it. So, Stu Skinner has been very good for the Edmonton Oilers, especially when you throw in his contract. It's been outstanding, in fact, at $2.6 million. I just don't I don't get all of the hate for Skinner. And then I always ask the question, so if you're going to trade for a goalie, who are you trading for? Because it's easy to say they got to upgrade it. Like anybody can say that. Hey, upgrade the goalie. Okay, where? Who? How? Who's the goalie? Because if you say John Gibson, I say, have you looked at his contract? When was the last time John Gibson was in the playoffs? Does he want to come to Canada? There's a lot of factors you don't even know. But I don't see how John Gibson is, like, when I look at the Oilers, I would argue today, right now, they need a bigger need to get a finishing top six winger than an upgrading goal. Because I think for the amount of shots and chances they have, they don't capitalize on them nearly enough. Nearly enough. So that's me, a bigger area of concern. Quick break. We'll come back. That was the Oil Report brought to you by Volvo Cars. Edmonton, Yurchuk joins us. We got Rich Winter today in the business of sport. Also, Stephen Hauschka, of course, former NFL kicker, of course, was in the Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl week. The Chiefs and the Eagles. History potentially in the making. Chiefs first team ever in the NFL to win 3 in a row. Could happen, but the Eagles are good. Man, can they run the ball? So we'll talk about the lead up, the 2 weeks to the Super Bowl with Stephen, who's got quite the resume. And this guy, Con, you want to talk about a money kicker come playoff time? There's not many better than him. We'll get to that and more on the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
The job isn't done until the last load is hauled, and having a semi-trailer out of commission is not an option. Whether replacing or adding to your convoy, Edmonton Trailer has a huge inventory of new and used semi-trailers, trusted by the gravel, logging, oil field, fluids, and freight industries. Find a trailer right for you online or at one of their 3 locations. For sales, service, parts, rental, and finance, when you're in it for the long haul, Edmonton Trailer.
It's the 2-day customer appreciation event at Vitality Health Foods. They're offering 25% off regularly priced products in stock, like Dr. Klein's Shilajit, featuring pure Himalayan Shilajit. Customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. Visit Vitality Health Foods today.
Elevate your game with the Basketball Show, hosted by me, Paul Sir. Tune in Saturday mornings at 10 for expert insights, exclusive interviews, and the latest hoops action. It happens right here on Sports 1440.
McDonald's presents a hockey showdown like never before. McDavid versus Matthews. There can only be one winner, competing for all the glory and all the prize. The new menu features top shelf plays like the Smoky Quarter Poppy and the Big Mac David, so everybody scores, with even more delicious options like the Spicy Junior Chirpy. Now that calls for a silly Sunday. The Showdown menu, now available at McDonald's.
When the snow hits, again, it's all hands on deck. Thankfully, you have Echo in the Lawnmower Hospital in your corner. Echo's backpack blowers, like the powerful Echo PB9010, can help remove snow from walkways, driveway sand, and more. And the Lawnmower Hospital has pet-safe, plant-safe ice melt to help ensure the job's done. Ice and snow don't stand a chance. LawnmowerHosp.com.
The Lawnmower Hospital.
At Schwab Buick GMC, our boss is serious about cutting prices on vehicles like Sierras and Silverados. When?
Right Schwabbing now! Right Schwabbing now!
So when he sees the MSRP, he says,
that's not Schwabbing good enough!
He's always looking for more.
Dig the Schwab in!
Save with 0% financing or lease rates as low as 1.9% on 2024 half-ton trucks.
Right now!
At Schwab Chevrolet Buick GMC in Leduc. Right Schwabbing now!
Portions of this hour brought to you by Cantork. We offer sale, rental, repair, and calibration of hydraulic, pneumatic, and battery-powered torque wrenches, stud tensioners, and flange maintenance equipment. Order today at Cantork.com.
Hat tricks, touchdowns, and home runs. Get it all with the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Welcome back. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X. As always, the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website. You can get in the game, use the promo code Gregor50 and get a free $50 play. And hey, if you used it last month, don't worry, you get a new one this month. PlayAlberta.ca. And also, it is Wednesday, so Lotto 649, $30 million up for grabs tonight. Good luck. Remember our deal. PlayAlberta.ca. Let's go in the room now, brought to you by Action Electrical. They are the most diversified electrical contractor in Alberta with 4 divisions in project, service, tag, and solar for commercial or residential. Check them out today at actionelectrical.net. Is Tyler Yurchuk from Oilers Nation and Daily Faceoff. Joins us. Ty, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Greg, you look nice and tan.
Oh, buddy, Hawaii was unreal.
Believe it.
I've never been to the Big Island before, been to Maui and Oahu. And I you know what? I think my first few days, we just stayed at our resort and there's like black lava rock all over the place. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here, man? It's like, this doesn't look great. It's like I'm on the moon. Like literally, it's like we landed on the moon. But then we took a few days, we drove around to different parts and man, it's got like 11 different climate zones. And there's like, you'll go into one and there's like snow-capped mountains. And then you drive another half an hour. Now you're in a rainforest and it's like muggy as hell. It's unreal. So we had some great food. So I highly, highly recommend it to anybody if they ever want to go.
That's where I'm going on my honeymoon in August. So I'll be asking you for recommendations.
Some places to go for sure. Beautiful. So yeah, there's some awesome stuff there. You'll love it. And you know what? There's lots of golf courses. I know you two love to golf. So there's some sweet courses there as well. So yeah, I'll hook you up for that. The Edmonton Oilers. Where do you come out at, like, why are people so concerned about the Oilers goaltending? And who do they think are these magical upgrades?
I don't know. And also, like, the same people who complain about the goaltending say that they need another scorer and they need a defenseman. And it's like, okay, so if you're going to go pay Utah, whatever, to get Carroll Vamelka, for example, you're going to give them a 2nd-round pick for a rental goalie who you're probably going to let walk in the summer. Like, that just, it doesn't make sense to me, honestly. And I like what you said about people who complain about Stuart Skinner and his inconsistencies. Mackenzie Blackwood, that's the guy everyone goes, oh, the Oilers missed on Blackwood. And he just had back-to-back shutouts for the Avs. In the 5 games before his back-to-back shutouts, he had a sub-900 save percentage in every single one of them, allowed 3 or more goals in every single one of them. So, like, you know, every goalie is inconsistent. It's kind of the nature of the position. And I agree, like, they have other things they need to worry about. And to an extent, they will go as far as Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard will carry them. I'd rather see them go and upgrade the other pieces on this roster, other parts of this roster.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Even when you have a great goalie, you can still get waxed. We saw that with Winnipeg the last 2 years. Like, they got a Connor Halley who over the regular season numbers would say this is the best goal in the league. And then they get into the playoffs and teams really focus in. And Kevin Woodley, who knows way more about goaltending than I do, says every goalie has a weakness. And, you know, if you can find ways to exploit it, well, that's what happens. And Colorado just, you know what, they came in waves and they were like, we can beat him. Because even Hellebuck's weakness, according to Woodley, and when I say weakness, it just means a little bit more susceptible. It's not like, oh my goodness, he's terrible at it, but goals off the rush were an area where you could beat him. And guess what happened? So, you know, your goaltender is a part of it, but your system in front of him is just as important, arguably more important. Because I always find it funny if a goalie gets lit up. Well, look at the environment he's in. I'm like, because no one ever says, well, look at Connor McDavid's offensive environment. Right? They never talk about it because guess what? He creates regardless. So goaltending, to an extent, is still somewhat reliable on the environment that you put him in, and scoring isn't.
And the other thing, too, with Skinner is people keep going, oh, well, you can't trust him in the playoffs. You can't trust him in the playoffs. And I push back on that, too, because he had a bunch of great moments in the playoffs as much as he struggled. Also, he is young. He's learning how to be a number 1 goalie on the fly. And then, again, Blackwood. Okay, have we seen Mackenzie Blackwood play in the playoffs? No. Carroll Vamelka. Have we seen Carroll? No. Like, all these names people keep throwing out are not guys who we've seen in the playoffs. So if they're your solution to Stuart Skinner's playoff struggles, how do you know the moment won't be too big for those guys? What if if you're going to sit here and play that, what if Stuart Skinner falters in the playoffs? Okay, what if Mackenzie Blackwood crumbles under pressure? We don't know how he performs. Like, again, it's the what ifs one way without accepting what ifs going the other way. And again, goaltending is uncertainty. Goaltending is fickle. That is the nature of the position. in the NHL. And as much as you can point to a Bobrovsky as a guy who carried a team to a Stanley Cup final and a Stanley Cup eventually, a year before they first went to the Stanley Cup final, he was the most untradeable contract in the entire sport. And the Panthers were signing Spencer Knight to, what was it, a $3-4 million contract because they decided they couldn't trust Bobrovsky anymore. Then he snaps his fingers and he's back to being elite. Like, again, it happens. The fact that the Oilers have this duo who have done the job, they've taken the team to a cup final for $3.6 million this year and next, is crazy value.
Yeah, wow. And here's the thing. Stuart Skinner, if you say, well, you can't win in the playoffs, in the third and fourth rounds, who theoretically should be the hardest rounds, Stuart Skinner played 13 games. In 9 of them, he allowed 2 goals or less. So I think they can be okay. I think they've proven that. They went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. I think it's all right. Now, the Oilers, what's interesting to me, I would actually, you could convince me that the Oilers' need for a scoring winger might be the most obvious need. Because all season long, if you look at the Oilers, their team shooting percentage, and they, by the way, have the league's leading goal scorer, and they still don't have a great shooting percentage as a team. And I look at the amount of shots to the amount of goals they get, obviously is way lower than most teams. And they're still a high-scoring team. They just generate a lot. I could make an argument that a scoring winger might be priority number 1 right now.
In the 4 games this year where the Edmonton Oilers have had the most shots on goal in those games, they have lost 3 of those 4 goals, and they are not running into world beater goalies in those games. Think back to a week ago. They made Alex Lyon look like he could damn near win the Vezina this season. And I agree with you. I think they need more scoring, but where I get frustrated, because I've had this conversation now, I had it with Frank today on my show. I get frustrated because we're sitting here once again going, the Oilers could use more scoring up front. They spent $7 million on Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner, and we're still looking for more scoring. Like, that's a little bit of an indictment on the front office here. Like, you went and took 2 shots in free agency that were supposed to solve the scoring problems on the wing, and they didn't solve the scoring problem on the wing. So again, I'm still of the belief that we're very early in the John Klingberg thing, and he's largely been fine. He hasn't been, very surprising to me, either positively or negatively. I still think they need a defenseman. I think that's priority number 1. I think the scoring need is a little bit of a luxury and a nice to have if you can afford it, because I think, again, they kind of made their bets with Arvidsson and Skinner. And unless it's one of those going out the door to try to get some more assets in, and then potentially you might have to free up some cap space as well. Unless it's one of those guys going out, I think maybe this front office needs to just trust that one of them will find their game at some point and be that solution.
Well, that leads me to Jeff Skinner, who, you know what, his defensive play, he's clearly made it a focal point for himself. There's no question about that. I think it's improved. I could, hey, God love Corey Perry. I like everything he brings, but I could make an argument that it's time to give Jeff Skinner a look in the top 6 just to see, right? And I would probably try that first before going out to get a top 6 scoring winger.
I think you absolutely have to. And I mean, you have 2 more games here before the 4 Nations break. Then when you come back, it's a pretty short runway until the trade deadline. So I would argue that you're almost running out of time to give Jeff Skinner the proper amount of time to ride next to a Leon Draisaitl or a Connor McDavid. And what I don't want to see if he does, let's say tonight, again, we don't know what the line combos are going to be or whatever. Let's say tonight they decide to put Jeff Skinner next to Leon Draisaitl. What I don't want to see is the team down by 1 going into, halfway through the second period. And now Jeff Skinner's back on the 4th line because they're loading something up on the top line and whatever. Or he makes one bad defensive play and he's stapled to the bench and the experiment's over. Like, again, I know Vasily Podkolzin was doing a lot of things right away from the puck. I don't mean this as a shot to him or even a shot to Victor Arvidsson, but like, they've both gotten significant runway with Leon Draisaitl, even though they're not scoring. I think Jeff Skinner, if you turned a blind eye to the scoring warts in Podkolzin's game, and they've existed so far this year in Arvidsson's game, then if you give Jeff Skinner a chance, you can live with a couple defensive warts, because there's the upside of finally having a 30-goal scorer next to Leon Draisaitl. My kind of big point with all this rambling, if they're going to do it, and I think they should, do it quickly, do it soon, and actually give it some proper runway.
Tyler Ramchuk joins us, Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X. What's been your impressions of Klingberg thus far?
There are some good there. There is some good there, I should say. He makes some really nice plays at the offensive blue line. There was the one play against the Leafs. Nylander absolutely walked him. I actually went back and watched all of his shifts from that game, and I thought there were a few moments where he kind of looked a little bit lost when defending the rush. There was even that one goal against Detroit where Klingberg was in frame, kind of pointing at Rasmussen, and then Rasmussen went right past him and deflected a puck into the net. So I think there are some legitimate concerns with how he defends off the rush. Part of that might just be him getting back up to speed. Again, hasn't played a lot of hockey in the last 14 months. Some of the decision-making has been a little bit off with the puck. But again, I can chalk that up a little bit to just having some warts and having some rust coming off of as long of an absence as he did. But I haven't seen enough to really believe that there's a really high upside here. And that's why I say they still need to be out and looking for another defenseman to add to this group. The Oilers have been very lucky with their health on the blue line the last number of playoffs. Even when a guy like Darnell Nurse got hurt, he was going out there and playing for him. Like, they haven't had a run where it's like, okay, they're on their 8th defenseman in round 2 or round 3 of the playoffs. And we know that can happen. We've seen it happen with other teams in the past. I think a great spot to be in would be to go into the playoffs with John Klingberg as your 7 and a real reliable piece next to Darnell Nurse. And you go, hey, even if someone blocks a shot and has to miss 2-3 games, we got a guy who is up to speed and can play at the NHL level and can handle 16 to 18 5-on-5 minutes a night. We have that guy as our 7. Like, give yourself that ability, install more depth, because again, I don't know if I love the idea of Troy Stecher playing in playoff games, and I don't know if I love the idea of John Klingberg playing 18 5-on-5 minutes a night in a playoff series. I think he could get a little bit exposed. So again, he's been fine. I'm not going to sit here and say the experiment's going to be a failure. It might be worth their time, but in my dream world, he's a number 7 on night 1 of the playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The problem is there's not a lot of top 4 defensemen available. Right. And, the way Calgary's playing, Rasmus Anderson, who was never coming to Edmonton anyway, but he's not on the market right now. Like, Calgary's stupid to trade him, right? They just actually added guys from Philadelphia, right? They're not suddenly going to turn around, I think, and trade Rasmus Anderson at the rate they're going. Heck, they're 1 point behind the LA Kings all of a sudden. So there's not a lot of top 4 D-men out there. I agree with you. I think they will get another defenseman, another depth guy, but I'm not sure it's going to be a top 4 because I'm just not sure who that guy could be.
Yeah, and I could see them even just going after a lefty instead of the pure kind of top 4 right shot puck moving defenseman we had talked about, to again just give them some depth and give them some flexibility. Like, I don't know, maybe you look at a piece, and this would be like, he's pretty far down my list, but he's on Frank's board, so I bring him up. But like, what's Brian Dumoulin cost at 50% retained? Is that a 4th round pick that you're throwing to the Anaheim Ducks? And maybe that just gives you, again, another guy where if you need him, you can slot him in. If you feel like Klingberg's not good for your matchup in a playoff series, you move Kulak to play with Nurse, you put Dumoulin with Emberson, and you feel like you have a more mistake-free blue line, if you want to call it that. Some of the guys with term are interesting too. Like, Chicago would apparently be okay with keeping 50% of Connor Murphy. He's got 1 more year after this one. If he's a $2.2 million defenseman, again, he doesn't really move the puck all that well, but he's a defense-first guy. Is he a nice piece to kind of play off John Klingberg? He might cost you a lot. I really like Jamie Alexiak as well, but he's a lefty. That would require, again, being comfortable with Brett Kulak being your right shot guy. He comes with term as well, though. 1 more season. They have no retained salaries on their books. Maybe you could convince Seattle to keep on him. Alexiak's all of a sudden a bargain for next year. There's a few names out there I like, but none that I really love yet. So again, still a month till the deadline, so we'll see.
What do you think Evander Kane can give the Oilers in the playoffs? And do you think he plays?
I think he'll play. Just the fact he's on the ice already and seems to, be in a spot where he can ramp up at some point. He'll play. I do think there are people, and I'm sure there were some texts and comments when we talked about adding a scoring winger, people going, hey, Evander Kane will be that guy when he comes back. But like, again, we're getting to that point where he'd be almost a year removed, 10 months removed from the last time he played in a hockey game. I think you need to probably have him penciled onto the 4th line to begin with and let him grow from there. But as much as we talk about, the Kucherov stuff and the Stone stuff and how great it was that those teams got the LTIR space and now the Oilers finally get to take advantage of that loophole, there is no guarantee that the player you get back in June is going to be the same guy in April is going to be the same guy we saw 12 months earlier. He's also on the other side of 30 now. He's somewhat heading towards the end of his career. We know how those sort of prototypical power forwards can age and the curve can hit them really, really quick. I think if you're expecting Evander Kane to just snap his fingers on night 1 of the playoffs, step into the lineup and be 25 plus goal Evander Kane, who's doing all his vintage stuff, I think you might be setting yourself up for disappointment. Could he contribute nicely in a depth role? Yes, but I'm not sitting here going, night one, put him next to Leon Draisaitl and let's go, because I don't think he's going to be able to fire up the engine that quickly.
Oh, no, I think he's a bottom 6 forward to start the playoffs, no doubt in my mind. And if that's all he is, great. If he ends up playing his way into their top 6 because he's playing great, that's a huge bonus. But to me, I don't view Kane as anything more than the bottom 6 winger. And that's not a knock. That's just, it's hard because he's been out all year long. And the one thing he'll bring that I think the team still needs is a little bit of physicality. It's something that if in a perfect world, if they could add a skill guy who's got a little bit of grit to his game, I think that's a needed element for their team. Lastly, what about Noah Philp as their fourth line center? You think they upgrade there?
I almost have like a similar take to John Klingberg in a way. I actually thought his game against the Blues was his best game in an NHL jersey. I thought he was really effective. He was getting in on the rush a little bit. He seemed confident enough to hold on to pucks as well. I do think there's a little bit. He takes very, very short shifts. Like there was a shift that blew my mind. I'd have to look up the exact number, but it felt like it was 25 seconds. Like one of his wingers had just gotten onto the ice and Noah Philp was already going off. So I think there might still be a little bit of he's afraid to make mistakes in his game, and that means he's not taking chances. And I think he's a very talented player. I would love to see him take more chances, carry more pucks into the offensive zone. But I think in a dream scenario, he's your fifth center for a playoff run where you go, hey, we know he can give us something. If we need him, we can trust him. But let's try upgrade on that. Is there a veteran who's maybe a bit better in the dot, who brings a bit more snarl to the bottom 6? Like, it's not a must upgrade spot because I do think you can trust Noah Philp there. And again, he's looked better as the games have gone on. But I don't know if I've seen quite enough of the upside to be like, I'm 100% down to that for that guy to be playing 16 plus playoff games for me this June. I think adding a little bit more depth down the middle would be nice.
Quickly, I know this is a tough one for you. Who do you like in the Super Bowl?
I am betting on the Kansas City Chiefs purely as an emotional hedge because, well, one, I think they're going to win. Like they're such a good football team, and people talk about the officiating and all that. And as much as myself as a Bills fan, I'm frustrated by everything that went down. You also have to give the Chiefs credit because when they get those breaks, like they got that break on the 4th down against the Bills, they went and scored. Like when they get those breaks, they always take advantage of them. So I think they're going to win. I'm going to bet on the Chiefs. So at least at the end of the game, I'll either sit there and say, hey, I won $100 or nice, the Chiefs lost. That makes me happy. So it's an emotional hedge. I'm betting on the Chiefs.
Awesome. Thanks, Ty. Have a good one.
Yeah. See you, Gregs.
There you go. It's Ty Ramchuk from Oilers Nation and Daily Face Off. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you. We'll come back. We'll get to more on the Oilers Blackhawks game. Some stats for you to look into. Connor Bedard, pace-wise, slightly lower than last season. Why? I'll tell you next on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
There's a 75-inch TV on sale for the big game.
No.
Oh, come on. We could be the football house in a couple of weeks for Super Sunday.
No.
Oh, but I already invited David, Rhett, and Bryden. And you know Bryden, he's bringing his cousin who we brought to our wedding.
What? No. Ew. That guy was hitting on my mom all night. They are not coming over. Go to On the Rocks.
Yes, On the Rocks. Okay, OnTheRocksYEG.com. Oh, look, only $30 each. We get a seat, prepaid moveset, team t-shirt, chance to win $1,000 cash. Hey, babe, great idea.
Love you. Go have fun at OTR.
Day or night, tasting just the right. You can order oodle noodle at oodlenoodle.ca, delivering you the news almost right away. Remember, you can order oodle noodle at oodlenoodle.ca. So stay on your couch all day and order oodlenoodle.ca.
You're listening to Japa Machinery Group knows that XCMG may not roll off the tongue, but Japa's team will help keep your construction jobs rolling on time and on budget with heavy equipment sales and rentals. Visit japamachinery.com to find out more.
Attention drivers, it's the midwinter tire clearance sale at Fountain Tire. Right now, you can save up to 20% off all in-stock winter tires. That's right, premium brands, unbeatable safety, and incredible savings. But don't wait, this sale ends March 8th. And once they're gone, they're gone. Contact your local Fountain Tire for complete details.
It's the 2-day customer appreciation event at Vitality Health Foods. They're offering 25% off regularly priced products in stock, like Dr. Klein's Shilajit, featuring pure Himalayan Shilajit. Customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. Visit Vitality Health Foods today.
You got a go-to coffee spot, a trusted barber, even a lucky game day jersey. But
When it's about looking your absolute best, there's only one name you need: Mr. Dirk. Family run since 1939, we're experts in crafting impeccable tailor-made suits and offering a wide variety of everyday styles. Pair that with personalized one-on-one fittings and the convenience of on-site tailoring. Mr. Dirk elevates your style game. Visit our Edmonton store or explore MrDirk.com. Score big on style with Mr. Dirk.
Hockey is back, and Play Alberta, Alberta's #1 sportsbook and official partner of the Edmonton Oilers, has you covered with bigger offers, boosted odds, live betting, player props, and more. New to Play Alberta? New players now receive $200 in free bets just for signing up. You already play? Get a $10 free bet for every $100 you bet every week all season long. Visit playalberta.ca and make your picks today. Bonus terms and conditions apply. Experience more at the Edmonton Expo Center. Come for Canada's largest trade show, the biggest names in entertainment, exhilarating sporting events, and more. Stay for the experience. But it doesn't end there. Maximize your brand exposure with Edmonton Expo Center's new cutting-edge feature screens, spanning Western Canada's largest venue space. Captivate an annual audience of over 1 million visitors during iconic events like Pro Rodeo, Disney on Ice, Glow, K-Days, and so much more. To learn more, call 780-660-0514 or visit EdmontonExpoCenter.com today.
Miss golf during the off-season? Of course you do. So head to the Leduc Golf Club and try their state-of-the-art golf simulators. Perfect your swing. Enjoy delicious food and beverages, and even book a lesson with one of the Leduc Golf Club pros. Whether you're a seasoned golfer or just starting, the Leduc Golf Club simulators offer a great way to keep your game sharp any time of the year. Call or visit the Leduc Golf Club today to book your spot and swing into action all year round.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Papa John's. Make your game day feast better with Papa John's. Take 20% off any pizza at regular menu price. Use code GAME25 at papajohns.ca or through the Papa John's app.
From puck drop to kickoff, it's the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, as we continue on. Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Hope you're having a lovely day. Oilers, of course, in Chicago tonight to take on the Blackhawks. The Chicago's having a season that kind of expected. Now, I know they're off season. They signed some veteran guys, and everyone's like, oh, we're going to speed up the rebuild. Yeah. There's certain things you can't speed up. The rebuild is one of them. Especially when you go with scorched earth, as the Blackhawks did, where they basically got rid of everybody. The only guy they didn't get rid of was Seth Jones, because they just signed him to a huge contract. And then the next year, not even before his first year of his deal was over, they're like, well, now we're getting rid of everybody. And guess what? They've been bad. And they continue to be bad. Now, Connor Bedard, currently this season, he is averaging 0.87 points per game. He had 0.9 last year. So pretty much the same. Now, a little bit of a slower start. He does have 19 points in his last 19 games for the Blackhawks. He had 26 in the first 33. So, he's pretty similar to where he was last year. Now, he's down in goals slightly. He was at 0.32 goals per game last year. He's at 0.28 this year. But the big area where he's down is shots on goal. He had 3.03 shots per game last year. He's down to 2.36. And no, there's a few reasons of that. It's not like he had way better line mates last year. If you look at the quality of players he has, you know what? I think, teams still don't know tendencies of a player, but through video and coaching, guys will be, okay, this guy likes it here. He likes the puck in a certain area. He likes to come out of the corner, likes to shoot from here. And guess what? Guys will start taking it away. Now, the great players always adapt. And they're like, oh, you like to take this away from me? No problem. Now, some things you can't take away. Leon Draisaitl one-timer on the power play. Or even without the power play. He finds ways to get open. Alex Ovechkin, Austin Matthews, go down the list. Connor McDavid. Oh, yeah, you know what? I hear it all the time. I think teams are figuring it out. And then McDavid scores 20 points in 8 games. And you're like, are you sure they're figuring it out? The guy just had a 40-point playoffs, for goodness sakes. I don't know if teams really ever figured out because some of the stuff McDavid does is just split-second reaction. How do you react to it? Can you suddenly match his edge work? Can you go laterally as quick? Like, look at the goal last night in overtime. All right, Bouchard comes back up, looks to make a pass. I don't know if the puck slipped off his stick, either one. Either way, McDavid picks it up. It's kind of a broken play. And then bing, bang, 2 dekes around a guy, and one of them is a forward. You know, Dylan Holloway's not normally in that position. You're in the middle of the ice defending. You're done. Right? Like, every forward in the league who's in that spot right there, you're getting walked because it happens so fast, and it's against the fastest player in the game with the puck on his stick. And then Connor Brown reads the play wisely, gets himself in a spot for a one-timer. Boom. Game over. But you look at Bedard, he doesn't, like, he's a really good shooter, but teams have figured out how to limit his shots. Right? That's what you want to do. You want to take away time and space. And in his second year, he's going through the learning curve. Now, lots of the elite guys figure it out, but some of them take a while. Nathan McKinnon. It took him 4 years to really explode. White was a 50-point guy. Well, actually, no, he had 63 once in his first 4 years. But the other 3 seasons, 51, 52, 53. And then, boom, he exploded. 97 points, and then he's been up there ever since. Some guys just take a little bit longer. So, you know, I was very cautious to people when we heard the, Connor versus Connor. I'm like, what are people doing? Connor Bedard is not Connor. I don't care what he did in junior. He doesn't skate like McDavid. He's not going to create the space in the NHL that McDavid creates. Now, he had a better release coming out of junior than McDavid has, no question. But that's just one element of his game. And so when I've been watching the Blackhawks games, I see some frustration from a player because for the first time, really, because you come into the NHL as a rookie, hey, I get 61 points in 68 games. That's pretty good. Right? And I think he was expecting to take another step this year. But it's harder. Right now that there's more footage on you and video, it's harder. And then the losing, I'm sure it can wear on guys, but hey, we've seen lots of good players on losing teams get lots of points. So, the best guys, they don't let it get them down. But when I watch Bedard, teams have really focused on taking away his time and space, and he's not even getting shots off. So it's not like his shooting percentage is way in the dumps. It's simply his shots on goal are down significantly. Basically 3/4 of his shot per game down. So you look for Edmonton tonight to want to take away Bedard's time and space. And now, of course, you want to do that for every player. But I was watching specifically because Bedard, he likes that little pull-in move, right? Has it, comes inside, rips it. I haven't seen that from him very often this year because teams are playing him a little bit different straight up. So I'll be curious to see, tonight he's on a line with another youngster in Slaggert, who was a 3rd-round pick of them in 2020, I think it was. Now, since he's being recalled, he's got 2 goals in 3 games. Now, he's only playing 13 minutes a night, but he's shooting the puck. He's got 9 shots in 3 games. And he'll play on a line with Bedard. And Ryan Donato, the one thing Donato's done in limited minutes is he's scored the last few seasons. So if he gets a chance, he can be dangerous. So Edmonton's got to respect him. But when you look at that matchup, if Bedard's going up, well, especially if it's a McDavid line, like I just can't think on home ice they're going to say, hey, let's put Bedard out against McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, to me, it'd be foolish. It's probably going to be the Dickinson line, I would think, with Mikheyev and Teravainen. But either way, it's a mismatch for a mismatchup for Edmonton. They got a huge advantage if you keep that line together, which they probably will, considering that McDavid had 3 points last night and 3 points in the last 4.5 minutes of the game. Or sorry, 2 points in the last 4.5 minutes of regulation and then into overtime. So I could see him doing it. Coming up, the business of sport. We're going to talk about, big name players getting dealt. Doesn't happen a ton in the NHL. We had 2 of them here in the last few weeks. And then we'll talk about building team culture, the business of sport, from a guy who's been to a Super Bowl, who is pretty much can't miss in the postseason, and had a coach who he played under, who had the reputation of being very much the rah-rah player coach. How does it work? Because some coaches, they have lots of success in not being the player coach, and other coaches have success being the player coach. Which one's better? We'll find out all that coming up in the business of sports with the Rich winner, Stephen Hauschka, will join us after Connor Halley. And a Sports 1440 update brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling. Home with no payments, no interest for 1 year on your furnace. Stay warm all winter at legacyheating.ca.
This is the Sports 1440 update.
It's game day. The Oilers in action out in Chicago, taking on the Blackhawks. Puck drop 7:30 listed, probably closer to 7:53 actual time. We've got pregame coverage for you starting at 6 o'clock as Andrew Walker and Donovan Paulson got the pregame coverage. Also, Rangers hosting the Bruins at 5 and the Canadians in Los Angeles taking on the Kings at 8:30. Some news off the ice. Captain of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby, missed practice today, is being re-evaluated for an upper body injury per head coach Mike Sullivan. Crosby left the game in the third period last night after an awkward collision near the Devils' blue line, but returned 10 minutes later. In the association tonight, the Toronto Raptors are in action. They'll host the Memphis Grizzlies, tip-off 5:30. Also, Cavaliers take on the Pistons. The Hornets host the Bucks. Spurs head to Atlanta. Timberwolves take on the Bulls. Warriors up against the Jazz. Nuggets host the Pelicans. Suns and OKC. Kevin Durant not going to play in that one for the Suns. And then at 8 o'clock, the Kings and the Magic wrap it all up. In the AJ this evening, Sherwood Park hosting Okotoks. That gets going at 7 o'clock down at the Silent Ice Center. And in the WHL, you got Wenatchee in Regina. Calgary host PA, and the Rockets take on Victoria. Coming up in hour 3 of the Jason Gregor Show, it's another edition of the Business of Sport with longtime NHL player agent Rich Winter. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Station. The KJR broadcasts from West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin.
Download the free Stingray music app and listen wherever you go.
Oodle Noodle Origins. In 1864, Francis Oodle took over his dying father's business as a leatherman. He was quite proficient, but his heart was never truly in the trade. After his father's death, Oodle met a cocksure young man named Vladimir Nudell, who was a trailblazer in the popular new art of food boxes. They formed a partnership and aimed to ply their trade in the new world. At Ellis Island, Nudell was renamed David Noodle, and henceforth, the franchise has been known as
Oodle Noodle. You've got a go-to coffee spot, a trusted barber, even a lucky game day jersey. But when it's about looking your absolute best, there's only one name you need. Mr. Dirk. Family run since 1939. We're experts in crafting impeccable tailor-made suits and offering a wide variety of everyday styles. Pair that with personalized one-on-one fittings and the convenience of on-site tailoring. Mr. Dirk. Elevate your style game. Visit our Edmonton store or explore MrDirk.com. Score big on style with Mr. Dirk.
Excavators, loaders, lifts, compaction equipment, and more. Find the XCMG construction equipment you need. Available for rental or sale at Japa Machinery Group. Japa, helping build Alberta from the ground up for 50 years. Visit japamachinery.com.
Is it Riverside Motorsports?
No. It's Riverside Motorsports. Over 55 years in business, and people still get it wrong.
Guess it's time to get it right.
Riverside Motorsports. What you do for fun is our business.
You've probably heard the word rehab before, but when GS Construction talks about rehab, we mean bringing aging infrastructure back to life. Water and sewer systems that keep our communities flowing. GS Construction needs skilled pros who know how to get it done safely and efficiently, and that's why we're hiring. If you're a foreman or a pipe layer, apply to a company that's building for Edmonton and area for 2025. Join a team that's as solid as the infrastructure we restore. Visit gsconstruction.ca and join our crew today.
It's the 2-day customer appreciation event at Vitality Health Foods. They're offering 25% off regularly priced products in stock, like Dr. Klein's Shilajit, featuring pure Himalayan Shilajit. Customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. Visit Vitality Health Foods today.
I'm Rick Showers from Noble RV, and over the years, I've noticed something. New RV stores tend to treat the used RV customer as kind of a second-class citizen, not as important as the customer buying new. Heck, that even extends to the way they treat the used RV staff. And I ought to know.
You learn the business in the used department at a new RV store, right, Rick?
That's right, Bob. But I always loved used RVs. They're all one of a kind. I drove a used car as well. Used is always a better value than new. Come to think of it, I drive a used truck now.
Sounds like buying used means getting the most value for every dollar spent.
That's it exactly, Bob. A new RV is worth a lot less the second you roll it off the lot. Our customers benefit from that correction in value. which makes them smarter. So we treat you like a VIP because every customer and every staff member knows our used RVs are better than you.
And that's no bull.
NoBullRV.ca.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Leading Edge Physio. The team in Old Strathcona have special training dedicated to reducing the impact of cancer care before, during, and after your diagnosis. From lymphedema to the management of fatigue and side effects of chemotherapy and radiation, they can help. Learn more at leadingedgephysio.com.
The Jason Gregor Show, the best of Edmonton sports talk and beyond. This is Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
After 4 o'clock. Welcome back. Jason Gregor Show, Sports 1440, Orders Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X, as always, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Get in the game, $30 million gold ball jackpot tonight for Lotto 649. And you can always use the promo code Gregor50 and get a free $50 play at PlayAlberta.ca. Get a new one every month. Just use the same promo code. So good luck. Don't waste it on one. Make it a smart one. We are joined now by a long-time NHL player agent. Joins us every Wednesday in the business of sports. Rich Winter joins us. Rich, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. I'm still wrapping my head around our initial discussion about the love and dynasties segment when you were concerned we wouldn't have enough to say over the course of an hour, and you missed 2 commercial breaks.
Yeah.
So, it was fun. How was Hawaii?
You know what? Hawaii is it was unbelievable, man. I'd never been to the Big Island before.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I loved it. It was great mixture of relaxation for the first few days, and then we did a few adventures and went zip lining and snorkeling and helicopter riding and just drove around to different areas. The Pokaloo Valley, which so the Pokaloo Valley is on the Big Island. It's like a dead end road where you kind of drive around, then you come into it, and you have to walk. You walk down this alley. So this valley, and wait, up until 1946. People actually still lived in the valley. And there's no like electricity down there running water. Like it was, and then there was a tsunami and no one ever returned down in the valley. So they actually have wild cows in the valley. There's a few cows that they're wild and they're pretty rank, I guess. I was talking to the guy on our helicopter tour, but just to get down in there, it's unbelievable. There's black sand and it's so peaceful and tranquil. And you get, and they're really big on history in Hawaii, of course, as you know. And so they keep a lot of these trails in great condition with all the original, like this is the donkey trail and how they use, they would climb up and have the donkeys have to load everything up. And it's pretty steep, but it wasn't that bad at all to get through. But I could see when it's wet or something, it would definitely be a tougher climb. So it was awesome.
It's funny because when Max McCormick, the captain of the Coachella Firebirds, a client of mine, was called me from his vacation in Hawaii when we were negotiating his deal, and he just got back from hunting deer. And I'm like, in Hawaii? Like, are you sure? And so he sent a picture and bagged a big 6-pointer, pretty nice rack. And I didn't know what kind of deer it was, but never thought you could do half of those things in Hawaii.
Well, they have you can hunt boars there.
Right.
Like because in certain part, it's funny, in certain part of the island, no problem. In other parts, and more of the lush parts, like they have a little problems with, the wild, well, they call them pigs, but they're really wild boars.
Yeah.
And so, anybody, if you're a local resident, you can hunt them year round.
Yeah, or move to San Antonio and just try and hunt them in your front yard and hopefully get them all. Yeah.
So it was awesome. I want to get, and so we have Steve Hauschka joining us today. Of course, very successful NFL career, 13 years in the NFL. He had the NFL record for consecutive made 50-yard field goals. In the postseason, he was 24 out of 25 on field goals. Went to a Super Bowl. Now, though, he's a culture consultant and a performance coach, which is very interesting. So we'll talk to him about that. Talk to him about some of the coaches he had over his time. But before we get to that, I do want to ask you, the Mikko Rantanen trade just happened here in the last 2 weeks, and I haven't been on since. And there was a few things about it's very rare that we see like a top 10 player in the game get traded midseason. It doesn't happen very often.
Very often.
And his comment though afterwards when he was like, well, because he's a pending UFA for anybody who doesn't know. And, him in Colorado obviously couldn't come to an agreement with his agent. And he said, well, I would have taken less to stay there. And I'm kind of like, well, what does less mean? Like that can mean anything. Like,
right. $10. Yeah.
I want 14 mil, but I'll take 13.7, like technically it's less, but just his thoughts about it. It seemed to me that when a player comes out and says that, and you've had different players, you've had superstar players, you have fourth line guys, but the bigger contracts probably take a little bit longer at times to get to. Is there any chance that a player he's 5.5 months away from being an unrestricted free agent, wouldn't be up on any negotiations that were ongoing between his agent and the team?
It seems amazing to me that would be the case. Now, sometimes in bigger agencies, they got a lot going on and they don't have the time. They just don't have the time to attend to these things in detail. But I was astonished to read that he was taken by surprise. I'm thinking you would have had that conversation like, Miko, buddy, like we're pushing hard. I don't get it. They clearly are not moving.
Yeah.
Like, you have to understand there's some risk here. Now, if that conversation's had, I don't think he's caught by surprise,
Right.
So I was a little surprised that comment, but it's just different. I mean, I don't think, again, I think it's the difference between the big and small agencies. I'm not just going to pick on them because we're a smaller agency, but there's guys out there like Kurt Overhart, who's got a medium-sized agency. He's very, very big on attention to details. There's a lot of guys who are very good at it, but I keep hearing time and time again. I remember when I got Brizgalov as a client, like I went to a meeting at Coffee in Phoenix after promising my wife that I'd, really focus on just spending time alone with her. I said, honey, he's going to get $60 million. I mean, it's Coffee, probably nothing's happened, but I do have to go. And he hired me at Coffee because his big agency at the time hadn't talked to him for 3 months. And sometimes it's like the guy who asks the pretty girl to the dance and everybody's shocked that he was able to bring her. And the only reason was nobody had ever asked her.
Right.
Because they just assumed she wasn't going with any of us. So
Right.
I think sometimes it's, sometimes the people you think would be getting service
Yeah.
aren't getting service. I was shocked to talk to a first-round pick today of one of the teams in the NHL who's played a couple of years and hadn't heard from his agent for 6 months. But that's what people sign up for in what I call the puppy mill. If they have 150 NHL clients and 4 agents and they're recruiting 200 players, you know what? You get more phone calls when they're still recruiting it because you're in the honeymoon period. But I'll tell you, when you need an agent, and Miko appears to have needed one to inform him, then quite often they just don't have the time to there. I remember one of the big agencies, one of the clients was firing him to hire us. So he called them, and you can't even believe this, but he asked them, he told them he was letting them go. And the guy said on the phone, well, you're really important to us, but I'm in the middle of something now. Can we talk tomorrow? They didn't even have time for him. And that's not part of the sales pitch. Like families don't understand that. I mean, and what happens is you sign up with the big agency because Connor Bedard's there. Well, your kid's not Connor Bedard. So you're not going to you don't have the leverage to get the service.
Right.
Then what happens when things aren't panning out like you expected, they just let you go. They just don't phone you back. They don't work on it. So it doesn't surprise me. He's with a big agency. Doesn't surprise me that looks like they missed the mark. I don't want to be too critical because I don't know all the facts, but it's a huge issue in our sport,
How does it work if a player wants to change an agent? Like if let's say Rich Winter's my agent and it's February now and I'm like,
so you definitely want to change. Okay, I get it.
I'm like, you know what, Rich, it's been a slice, but I'm going to move on. Is it cut and dry that day? How does it work?
Very simple. You just have to, usually I ask the guys to call their agent, man up. And, you've been with him for 3 or 4 or 5 years, like him or not like him, you've had a relationship. So call them and tell them. And then, but technically, or from a legal perspective, all you have to do is send them a fax and confirm that the relationship is terminated. Now
but how does it work for because the contract, you get paid on a percentage basis of the contract, right? So do you get that percentage based on up until that point? So if you're, 70% through the season, you'll get your percentage of 70% of his salary?
No, there was an arbitration years ago between Ron Salser, a good friend of mine, and Alexei Zamnov. And the arbitrator decided that the new agent would get 10% of the fee. And the old agent who did all the work and had built the relationship and spent time on it, he gets 90%. So my dream scenario is to sign 15 guys to 8 times 8 the year before I retire and have them all fire me. Because basically,
then you'll get 90% over the term, or the 90% over the remainder of the contract.
Yeah. So, because it doesn't make any sense. Can you imagine? Like, you work your tail off.
Yeah.
You've been with this kid for 6, 7 years because these idiots are, they're recruiting them at 12 now. So you've been there for 6, 8, maybe 10 years. Now at 22, he's a superstar. Come out of his entry level contract, and he signs with the new cap. He's probably signing 8 times 10. Well, it would make no sense for the player to sign for 8 years at a huge amount of money and then say to the agent, thank you very much. I don't need, I don't want to pay you. So very, it's really not complicated. Players are sometimes, they're all challenged to make the phone call because they're generally pretty shy guys. They're team oriented guys. It feels to them like they're firing one of their teammates. It's uncomfortable. But it's happening more and more now because guys are realizing there's a big gap between service and no service. And because agents are now starting to look at providing more, because you're getting a 3% shot of $8 million. So you got to provide more than go for dinner, do my deal,
right,
and stay in touch. Because quite frankly, you could do the deals. They're not that complicated. It's the work that goes into positioning them and getting the right spot. And then ultimately, gosh, they'd rather be at dinner with a girl over in the corner than you, but they humor you and spend time with you. And so what value are we providing, right? And so I think there's a lot more value being provided by a lot more of the agencies. I think sometimes the bigger agencies are just falling behind because they don't have the time. They have the resources, but they don't have the time to put that kind of work into their business and develop it. I mean, we're still working on a model, many of them that in the agency world, same model that existed when Alan Eagleson was there. Make a few calls, do the deal, hope that's enough. Well, that might have been enough when they're making $85,000, $100,000 a year. I can't believe when I was representing Peter Bondra years ago, after he got his first 30-goal season, he switched to us, and his goal was to get up from 125 to maybe 200. It's a different world. But in that world, there wasn't that much more money. I remember we'd organize, we had a deal with Norwegian Cruise Line, so we'd organize trips for our players. They would come, fans would come to associate with the guys, get autographs, play a little floor hockey on the cruise ship. And you get everybody coming. Now they all own their own cruise ship, so nobody's coming. So, but it's just a different world. And I mean, when they're making that kind of money, they're associating with people that are very successful. They're getting the best of the best because they can buy it. And at some point they're turning at their agent and saying, 3% of $9 million, that's a lot. What am I getting for it? And that's an angle that we play when we're talking to players. Like, what are you getting? Of course, we think our service offering is the best in the business. I'm sure Kurt thinks his is, and I'm sure other guys think theirs are. Most of them aren't. But, we're getting those questions more and more. Like 3%, maybe. What am I getting? So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. 3% of $1 million is a lot different than 3% of $100,000. Right.
Exactly.
It's just, your total amount, what you're paying out. So it has changed. With the announcement today, you saw the NHL, and it wasn't just a proposal. Like, basically, it's signed that the salary cap numbers over the next 3 years, significant increases. And so, how does that, like, in your projections?
Yep.
So let's say you're representing a player now, and so his contract comes up, and so you're looking at comparables. But a lot of those comparables were signed when the salary cap increases hadn't been put into place. How do you factor that into negotiation?
You just try really hard to convince somebody that makes sense. But
there's not a real formula per se based on
not
percentage?
really. Well, we'll argue that, of course. Look,
Right.
I mean, next year we're up 14% from when that guy signed his deal. So let's do that. The other thing you'll argue on a longer term deal, yeah, I know you want it flattened out, but year 5 of this deal at $2 million, who knows? That could make him the lowest paid player on the team. So working through that. But I think one thing that a lot of people haven't thought through, I don't think, I'm sure many agents have, but there's a lot of money tied into the big players. The top players, they went after the deal when the cap was flat for reasons I don't understand. And now they're tied into these deals. So what's probably going to happen, the competition, there'll be obviously a Ranon type will bring up a lot of competition. Maybe he'll go back to Colorado for less than his agent was asking for. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of money for that middle 6 forward, that second pairing defenseman, because most of them haven't signed long-term deals. So I think what we're going to see is what we saw 15 years ago, where we had guys on the third line making $2.5, $3 million, 10 years ago.
Right.
We're going to return to, I think, the $3 million player on the third line and maybe the $2 million player on the fourth line, because you need all those guys to win. and you have cap room, right? I mean, I think if you look at that's what Oilers did this year. They went really hard at trying to fill up that bottom, the bottom part of the lineup. I think Brad Treliving did a pretty good job doing the same thing in Toronto because he had no money. So he's forced to do it on no money. But now those guys are going to be, what'll happen? One of those guys will get 3 and then everybody else will get it. Right. So because there'll be money in the system that's not being used in the superstars. The last 5 years has been, we can't give it to you.
Right.
We got to give you the minimum. We can do that. Maybe we can go 25 more than that, but we can't do any more because we just signed, Connor, and we just, extended Leon, and everybody buys into that, but they won't have to in the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. So that's what I think we might see. Like I was thinking from an agent perspective, the balance of signing long-term to a bridge deal, right? Like I know it's guaranteed money long-term, right? And some of them work out, and people always focus on this is a bargain deal, Nate McKinnon, sure. But there's lots of other guys that are long-term contracts that, the player ends up doing pretty well,
right?
And, the team isn't. So it probably comes down to each individual player, right? When who has this say, you know what, like I'm going to bet on myself. I'm not going to worry about injuries because in the percentage of guys who have career-ending injuries, it's pretty low.
It's really small, yeah.
It's very small. So you don't really worry about that. And you just look and say, hey, if they don't want to give me long-term right now, I'll gladly take a 2-year deal and then move forward, right? How do you approach that from an agency when it comes to, negotiating the bridge deal over the long? Because if you get a pretty good, because nowadays some bridge deals are, guys are signing for 2 years at $6-7 million bucks. Like it's not like it's a bridge deal at $1.5 million.
Right. Well, I think the issue depends on his family background, financial savings, because ultimately when you're a young man who maybe just had 2 young kids, he's starting to think a little bit more longer term now. Certainly his wife is, and pestering him about that. Now, someone puts a deal on the table, if maybe a couple $1 million less than he might get on July 1st, but it's 8 years or 7 years. And he comes home and his wife says, but honey, like if we take this deal, we don't ever have to worry about anything again. And sometimes that plays really heavily, especially if you got a young man from a family haven't had many resources. So, and every personality is different, but the risk of the long-term deal in my mind is not so much, from the player's perspective, maybe he outperforms it, but what happens if the team, if Marian Hossa was coming to Chicago after their 3rd Stanley Cup and signed 12 years, how miserable would he be now? We made that decision. Edmonton made a fairly serious play for him. We said no to a substantial sum of money to take about $80 million less because Marian's smart enough to think it through. He had made enough money, made $5-6 million a year for 5 or 6 years. So he didn't really need any money. So he made the hockey decision. I'll go to Detroit for a year, play with Nick and Pavel Datsyuk and these guys. I'll learn how to be a champion. I've never been on a team like that. Then I'll make my jump. Well, sometimes there's a lot of pressure at home when, quite frankly, the wife is looking at this and she's looking at the 3 babies. She's now pregnant. It's like, think about this, so it really depends. And I think, there's risks. The risk for the player, the biggest risk is you thought this team was going to be pretty good. And for some reason, the Ranon didn't sign. And then somehow it fell apart. Nobody wants to come there now. And next thing you know, somebody else asks out. And now you're maybe in a place that isn't as attractive as you thought it was. And, it's, and you don't want guys overpaid. I think it's funny. I never want guys overpaid. I don't want them underpaid. There's a range for every athlete and NHL player that, at the upper end of the range, it's a little bit too much, but no one's really thinking about trading him. The reporters aren't all over him because of the big deal. At the other end of that range, he's making a little less, but he's not firing me. You want to be at the upper end of the range, but you want to be in that range because people think being overpaid is a blessing, but it's not.
No,
because you're miserable. No. You don't feel like you're delivering. Your kids might be getting a little rousing at school. It's actually easy to be underpaid because everyone's like, oh, what a great value. This is amazing, right? But when you're overpaid, life can get pretty tough, especially when you start getting overpaid because you're not performing in the first 2 years of a long-term deal.
Yeah.
Now you have to live with their thinking. Think about James Neal, made the wrong decision. How bad was his life after that deal? He went for an extra year, as I understand it, in Vegas, and they blew him off. And then he ended up in an absolute mess. I'm sure he would have enjoyed those 4 or 5 years now if he would think about it in retrospect. So the dynamics are more personal and athletic than financial, because when you're talking about $5 or $6 million deals, these guys all have enough money to make it through the rest of their lives.
Yeah, it's true. Rich Winter joins us. When we return, we're going to focus on, acknowledging and releasing fears in sports and how that relates to success and confidence and trust, and culture consultant, performance coach, and also former NFLer who's been in the Super Bowl. So we'll tie in some Super Bowl and all of this stuff next with
Super Bowl winner.
Stephen Hauschka joins us next on the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X, along with Rich Winter.
Sunday, February 9th. Touchdown. The biggest game of the year. On 30 TVs.
Only at On the Rocks. Join host Ryan Jesperson at OTR's Rock and Bowl Super Party.
Tickets only $30 and include
guaranteed seating,
a team t-shirt,
prepaid moosehead,
and an all-you-can-eat tailgate buffet.
Plus prizes each quarter.
And one person will take home $1,000 at the end of the game.
Rock and Bowl Super Party, February 9th.
Tickets at ontherocks.yeg.com.
Hey, did you know you can get a free drink today?
Nice. I love free drinks.
Yeah, Booster Juice called your name today on the Booster Rewards app, so you get a free smoothie, booster mixer, or fresh juice.
Well then, why are we still sitting here just talking about it?
Watch for your name on the Booster Rewards app and social media. 2 names every day, all February long. Must be a Booster Rewards app member. For complete details, visit boosterjuice.com.
Attention drivers, it's the midwinter tire clearance sale at Fountain Tire. Right now, you can save up to 20% off all in-stock winter tires. That's right, premium brands, unbeatable safety, and incredible savings. But don't wait, this sale ends March 8th. And once they're gone, they're gone. Contact your local Fountain Tire for complete details.
You wanted local sports on weekends. Saturday mornings at 9, check out the Saturday Sports Setup, where we'll tee up what's happening on the weekend sports scene. Tune in Saturday morning at 9 on Sports 1440.
It's the 2-day customer appreciation event at Vitality Health Foods. They're offering 25% off regularly priced products in stock, like Dr. Klein's Shilajit, featuring pure Himalayan Shilajit. Customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. Visit Vitality Health Foods today.
Shop like an insider with the Bricks Friends and Family Sale. Save up to 25% off sofas, love seats, matching chairs, and sectionals. When you buy more, you save more. Up to an extra $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Plus, save up to 20% off bedroom and dining furniture. Save up to $600 off big screen TVs. And up to 25% off TV stands, fireplaces, and wall units. Sleep better with mattresses up to 40% off. Some exclusions apply. See in store for details. The Brick, saving you more.
Portions of this hour brought to you by On the Rocks. Watch every Oilers game at OTR with $5.25 Molson Canadian, $5 Pink Whitney shots, and 60-cent wings. Plus, play Oilers Score and Win for your chance to win On the Rocks gift cards. Oilers Hockey at OTR. Book your table today. Jasper Ave in 118th.
The Jason Gregor Show. The best of Edmonton sports talk and beyond. This is Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Welcome back, Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, Rich Winter with you on Sports 1440. We are here on the business of sports, and a very special guest joining us. Our big guest of the day, brought to you by Silent Rides Charter Company, one of Alberta's premier bus charter companies with state-of-the-art motor coaches that will safely take you or your team to your next destination. Book your ride today at silentrides.ca. And our next guest is a Super Bowl winner. Spent 13 seasons in the NFL, won a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, also kicked for the Ravens, the Broncos, and the Buffalo Bills. He has quite the career path. He graduated cum laude with a degree in neuroscience from Middlebury College. He might be the smartest kicker the NFL's ever had. And of course, now he's a culture consultant and a performance coach. Steve Hauschka joins us. Steve, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Jason. Hey, Rich.
I got to get to my initial question when I was reading your bio, and I'm like, neuroscience, like, because you never even played football till you're 19. So it was not even really, something you thought of growing up. You were more of a soccer player. But tell me, when you're a neuroscientist and then you become an NFL player, how does neuroscience help you as a kicker in any form?
That's a good question. I think I had an awareness of kind of how the brain works. I don't know,
Okay.
maybe that helped me a little bit mentally deal with some of the fears and the um I think I had an understanding that it was totally normal and natural to feel nerves out there.
Okay.
And that was a big part of my journey was playing soccer and lacrosse was very much a team sport. You're in the flow of the game. When I switched to football as a sophomore in college, I basically failed. I didn't make the varsity team at Middlebury as a freshman for the soccer team, and so when I was kind of twiddling my thumbs, figuring out what I was going to do, and all my roommates were football players. I said, you know what, I'm going to try this football thing. And I won the job, and the first few times I stepped out there in this game, it was like felt totally different than those other sports had felt. There's all this pressure. Everybody's eyes were on me.
Yeah.
And the feeling of like making and missing it was like so elevated, or like if I missed, it was like the worst feeling. And so I realized like, okay, I'm going to have to get the mental side of this thing figured out. Otherwise I'm not going anywhere with this.
Yeah. Well, it's great that you talk about your position, because the kicker position is one where, you get called upon, and it's either you make your field goal, and when you make field goals, people are like, yeah, okay, he made it. And, and you miss it, and then it's like, oh my God, this is the worst, right? Like the mental focus, because some games, I'm sure, Steve, you were on the sidelines up until the final minute of the game. You haven't even been in the game, and now it comes in, the game's on the line, and like, okay, Steve, you're coming in to kick a 48-yarder. And I don't even what do you do during the game to stay in the game when you're not in the game?
It's a great question, and you're right on the money there for realizing that part, because you can't wait until the third quarter to feel confident. You might only get one kick in the game, and your first kick might be the most important kick of the game. It might be your first kick might be in the fourth quarter to tie the game. That's how these football games work. So you have to cultivate the confidence before you get out there. And I had this whole like routine. I did this thing called tapping, and you basically do all these affirmations and build up your confidence before you get out there. But it really enabled me to go from a state of like a little bit scared of getting out there to like, let's go. Let's I got this thing. I want to be out there, and I'm going to I believe in myself, and I can go for this. So that was my journey was, before games, leading up to them, I'd be like, a lot of people watching, there's a lot of people watching. This is an important one, it's windy out there. But then I would just take all that stuff and I would convert that energy into like, I can do this, man. Like, I know what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I'm a great kicker. I'm going to go for it. And I'd use that self-talk to get me into this state of like ultimate conviction and belief.
Like Steve, you and I have talked about this before. It's just like, what were you seeing in terms of observing of your teammates? Because I'm assuming, and we'll touch on what you're doing now shortly, but how did that prepare you for what you're doing? How did you see, what role did you play with a, Pete Carroll like team where Pete's very, very communicative? Like, what role were you playing for a coach like Pete in Seattle, kind of being able to be an observer of what was going on around you? Did that play any role in how the coaching staff relied on you?
Yeah, in Coach Carroll's culture, so early in my career, I kind of bounced around, and I spent some time in some organizations where it was very old school leadership. And when I got to Seattle, it was the complete opposite. I'd never seen anything like that in all my years of sports. It was this super infectious, like positive energy, optimism, extreme focus on like what were the most important things to do today, and like having fun, like competition, all this stuff. And like guys had no clue how hard they were working because they're having so much fun and everything had a positive spin to it. It was not a grind. Like there was zero grind. And we became one of the best teams in the NFL for a couple, really 3 years there. I think we were the best team. We only came away with 1 Super Bowl. But it was the way we were doing it too that was so special. And as a kicker, you couldn't ask for a better situation to kick in, because that's the exact way you need to think as a kicker, to go out there and do that. You have to believe it's going to go well before you get out there.
Well, Steve, Pete knew so much about all of his players, and I'm assuming you included. Did he come to rely on you at all in a different way because of the fact you were in a position where you could observe what was going on? I was curious if he was aware of that and came to you at any kinds of times to say, what are you seeing, Steve? Because
I was a young guy when I got there, and later he opened up. When I was a captain, towards the end of my time there, he opened up to all of us captains and kind of explained his methodology, where a lot of it came from. He realized that he had to coach the older players a little bit differently than the younger players.
Okay.
And he asked us to basically help him guide these younger guys. And but he had a really well-established system. Like, he didn't need my help there at all. He didn't need any of the players' help. He just needed us to kind of, stay within the system. When I got to Buffalo, with the first-time head coach there, and Sean McDermott, he definitely needed some feedback from, the leaders on the team, the captains, and so that's where I was able to help a little bit more there.
Stephen Hauschka joins us, a Super Bowl winner with the Seattle Seahawks, 13 years as a kicker in the NFL. And I know that, I want to kind of get into what you're doing now, because it's very unique. You're a culture consultant. You're also a performance coach who helps athletes and teams enhance their potential. But, culture's, it's a word that's used a lot, Steve. And I think sometimes people say their culture, but they don't really know how to instill a culture. What would you define as a culture? And do most teams and even individuals maybe that you've encountered do they think that they have a culture, but it's actually opposite or different than what they think they have?
Great question. So culture is really like how people talk to each other, how people act, how people behave. It's the relationships they have, and it's really the energy that lives with the building these different sports teams and businesses, for that matter too. It's, if you think about a professional athlete and the way that their mind needs to think, or any high performer, the habits, the behaviors, the skill set that they have to have mentally. Culture is really the collective mind of an organization. It's the accumulation of all the different minds of the people that work within the organization, and how that all comes together. And when a team comes up against a challenge, how is that team gonna view that challenge? Are they going to view it as a threat, or are they going to view that as an opportunity to go be their best selves? And little things like that make a huge difference to performance. You can imagine a football team with 70 guys on the team, a bunch of them young guys. They're about to play a good team. You can imagine if they view that as a threat and they're scared of it. It can make them play tight, can make them try really hard, too hard almost. Trying hard at the highest levels of sport can actually affect impact performance negatively. So how you frame these opportunities, what you focus on a daily basis, what are the pillars and the things that people can come back to and relate to with each other. So culture is something that really needs to be built. It needs to be a reflection of the leader in the organization.
Okay.
And then there needs to be almost like if the leader's the Wi-Fi router, there needs to be repeaters in the building, people that are,
okay,
throughout all different parts of the building who are repeating that, and they are, in line with everything. And you can be guaranteed if you're not putting energy into culture, that it's probably a mixed bag. And there's a lot of people that are not performing to their absolute best, because they're gonna fall behind. They're gonna fall into those thought patterns that aren't as productive, that may be negative, that they might view things as threats. They might be afraid of really expressing themselves or being an individual, or like truly going for it, which in sports and in business is everything.
Steve, I'm always talking about, like in the National Hockey League, I think there's a lot of really good guys who are coaching, but they have no skills. I know you work with our mutual friend, Mike Hervey, and talk to Mike all the time about really what his first step, and I'm sure to some degree it's yours as well, is you're trying to hydrate the coaching staff with the skills you have so they can be repeaters, like you say, but they can also be teachers. Can you explain the process and the things you find when you go into work with a coach that are oftentimes missing, and how do you handle that?
You'd be amazed how many people in high-level positions have the X's and O's part down, but then they get hired because of that. But it's a whole different skill set to be a leader. As a leader of an organization or a team, you've got to be able to manage people, and really the job becomes, how do I elevate everybody to their best potential? And how do I give them a message that's like, I remember one time, one of our team meeting rooms, there's 70 guys. They're all alpha males, huge guys, and then you have this new head coach walk up, and they're just judging them, looking them up and down. Be like, why should I listen to this guy?
All right.
Give me a reason why I should listen to this guy. So there's a skepticism. So it takes time, it takes trust, it takes consistent messaging to be like, okay, I can like sell out for this guy. Because guys are always going to be conserving, like, hey, is he going to push us too hard where I don't know if I can give it my all, and maybe I should conserve a little bit. There's a trust that needs to be built. And then if the messages don't make sense, or if there's holes in them, it's just going to all unravel. And guys are going to be like, I'm not going to listen to him. So you have to have really like well thought out messages that, and a lot of these things can come from within the team. Actually, the most organic messages come from the players. They're just amplified, and that magic is kind of bottled up. Like, how many championship teams have you seen talk about, some special moment that happened that season, and that became the rallying cry for the team and the city, for that matter.
Steve Hauschka joins us. Steve, we'll take a quick break. I want to come back, and I want to dive into the neuroscience background that you have, and with the culture, and really the importance of it. You said positive messaging, and I think, saying it but then acting on it are two very different things. And we'll get into that next on The Business of Sport on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X.
You don't know what awaits you on the road to come, but with the 2025 XC90 from Volvo of Edmonton, you'll have the versatility to take on whatever life throws at you. The new XC90, a luxurious SUV with seating for up to 7, boasts newly upgraded body and wheel design. It's the perfect choice to drive into the coming year. And right now, you'll save $4,500 and lease from 1.49% on all in-stock 2025 XC90s. Volvo Cars Edmonton. VolvoCarsEdmonton.com, 1205 101 Street Southwest.
Hockey is back, and Play Alberta, Alberta's #1 sportsbook and official partner of the Edmonton Oilers, has you covered with bigger offers, boosted odds, live betting, player props, and more. New to Play Alberta? New players now receive $200 in free bets just for signing up. You already play? Get a $10 free bet for every $100 you bet. Every week, all season long. Visit playalberta.ca and make your picks today. Bonus terms and conditions apply.
McDonald's presents a hockey showdown like never before. McDavid versus Matthew. There can only be one winner, competing for all the glory and all the prize. The new menu features top shelf plays like the Smoky Quarter Poppy and the Big Mac David, so everybody scores. With even more delicious options like the Spicy Junior Chirpy. Now that calls for a silly Sunday. The Showdown menu, now available at McDonald's.
It's the 2-day customer appreciation event at Vitality Health Foods. They're offering 25% off regularly priced products in stock, like Dr. Klein's Shilajit, featuring pure Himalayan Shilajit. Customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. Visit Vitality Health Foods today.
The moments we need healthcare are some of our most vulnerable. You deserve a system that supports you. Our healthcare system can't wait any longer.
Visit rebuildourhealthcare.ca to learn more.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Culligan. For all your residential water needs, your local water treatment company. More than just big bottles, Culligan.com.
The Jason Gregor Show, the best of Edmonton sports talk and beyond. This is Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
444, we continue on. Inside the Jason Gregor Show, it's our weekly business of sports with longtime NHL agent Rich Winter. We always like to touch on different aspects of the business of sport. There's so many of them. And today, very special guest sticking with us, of course, a Super Bowl winner, 13-year NFL career, has a degree in neuroscience from Middlebury College, is currently a culture consultant and performance coach who helps athletes, teams, and organizations enhance their potential. Steve Hauschka is with us again. And so, Steve, I wanted your neuroscience degree, and I think in sports, a lot has changed and evolved into understanding the mental side of the game. And your position, probably one of the most mentally demanding positions because, you might be on the field for a total of 9 seconds that have two of the most crucial plays in the entire game. You talked earlier there about building culture and then getting messaging and repeating that messaging. So when you talk to a team to kind of start it, because I think everybody listening, whether they coach U9 or a football team or whatever, they want to build a good environment, but maybe they don't know how to navigate it. And what are some tips that you'd recommend on if you want to instill a culture, like what are the must-have, for sure bases of a foundation that you need? We can't hear him.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now we can, yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat. You saw Bill Belichick do it one way. You saw Pete Carroll do it another way. Andy Reid's doing it his way. There's a lot of different ways to win. In the NFL, you can have an incredible, you can have an outlier at head coach or GM or quarterback, put together an organization that's phenomenal. It's so difficult in the NFL with salary cap and all that, the free agency and the draft. It's really hard to put it together. So in the NFL, like culture is everything, because it's one of the real places that you can get the most out of everybody. It depends. It's got to be authentic to the leader, and it really has. You can't build a culture that's not in alignment with the way the leader thinks, acts, and behaves, if that makes sense. So
his values, basically.
His values, and what he believes leads to success. So if you tried to take Coach Carroll's optimism, competition, those pillars of like having fun and gave that to Bill Belichick, I think it would be a disaster.
Okay,
so, if you really want to break it down, though, it's the best way to think about it is if you're a coach, so you're asking kind of for high school, college,
sure, yeah,
level,
yeah.
Okay, if you're a coach, you need to think about it this way. What are the things that I can say that'll help help every person on my team get better at what they're doing, and show up better in games. So, during the practice week, that's a little bit different than in the game, the day before the game. But during the practice week, you're really trying to get them to focus on having an amazing practice. And what does that look like? Well, you got to talk about, hey, this attention to detail. Hey, we need this to look good. We need A, B, and C. This is what it looks like to be really great at that. And you got to coach it. I mean, there's no way around the X's and O's. So putting their focus on that, and there's practices everything. I mean, one of the I think every culture practice should be instilled as like where you build the program.
Okay.
And so I've seen teams where they go 80% in practice because, hey, it's practice. The best teams are going 110% in practice, and then in games they're relaxing. They're treating it like it's practice. It's like, hey, we're playing the game. This is fun. We already put in the work. We can just go trust it. So that's like a guaranteed recipe. That one, I don't see a way around that unless you have freak athletes that can turn it on somehow. But practice builds a lot of habits. So you got to be going full speed. You got to treat it like it's a game in practice.
Stephen, I think for me, it's always interesting how great players have a really difficult time making the transition to be a coach. And listening to Steve Kerr on one of Mike Gervais' podcasts talk about, now here's a guy who played for Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich, yet his first trip upon getting the job in Golden State was to go see Pete and Mike. And I found it interesting that the first bit of homework that Pete gave to Steve was to go figure out what his values are, because he said, like you said earlier, I mean, the players will find you out. If you're acting inconsistent with your values, you'll be seen as a fraud fairly quickly. But when you see these, I just thought it was interesting that Steve was so aware of the fact, despite the fact he played for some of the best coaches that ever coached in the NBA, he hadn't seen it from a perspective of a coach. And I was quite surprised that he was a little bit shocked that Pete asked him for his values to start with. Do you see good players having that same struggle, and how do you address that?
Good players having that struggle of transitioning to coaching?
To coaching, yeah.
Well, I think there's a whole nother thing of leaving behind the ego of being a player, which is a whole challenge. And, is Tiger Woods going to be the best golf instructor? I think he naturally knew how to swing a club at a young age in a way that you could never teach somebody. I sometimes struggle with that as a kicking coach. Like, there's just natural elements, I think, that every athlete has that are hard to quantify and really break down and explain to people. It's just like pro athletes have a gift of how they move their bodies and use their minds out there. But then the real step then to becoming a great coach is breaking all that down, processing all that, and using that to help people in the next stage. And that's the hard part. So the reason the reason Coach Carroll inspired Coach Kerr to do that work, that was very much a big part of Coach Carroll's process. Right. He was fired from the Patriots after, I forget what his record was, but it was pretty decent. And he had a year or two break between that and being hired as the USC head coach. And he went deep on his philosophies, and he didn't really fully explain that to ownership at the Patriots. That was what I read, but he went full in on his philosophy when he got to USC, and that's how he built the culture. And it was special. I mean, it was all about competition. I played in that same culture in Seattle. It's all about competition, all about having fun. You had celebrities coming out to practice. You had In Seattle, we had Dr. Angela Duckworth, who's like the lead
I just read her book.
researcher.
I just read her book
on
on grit. It's
grit.
unreal.
Yeah, she came and talked to us, and like that was the environment where it's like, hey, we're going to bring in the world's leading expert on grit, and she's going to talk to you guys. And like, what an inspiring place. We had endless stimulation. It was all about growth mindset. And it was intoxicating. Like, we were having so much fun. We didn't know that we were working as hard as we were. Like, we had Drake come out to a practice, watch us.
Kick a field goal? Kick a field goal?
He didn't kick a field goal, no, but he broke down our practice. And, we would regularly have, soccer team, like U.S. men's national team came and practice. We had Tottenham Hotspur out there. So he was like, the more the merrier. And he would put these people up on stage and have them talk to us.
And he never worried about things like if you're riding motorcycles in off season or going skydiving. I don't know if that was allowed, but he was just believe things are meant to be. And tell us some of the things that you found surprising in practice. I know his film sessions, the coaches spent a lot of time making those maybe as much fun as a movie you might see on Friday night. Or tell us about the basketball hoop that I believe was quite often in his facility.
Well, Coach Carroll, he likes to have fun himself. He goes and jet skis, and I once saw him out on Lake Washington. I was on a paddleboard and he was on his jet ski, and I was waving over to him. He thought I was just a fan. He didn't recognize me, but yeah. So at practice, we had lots of funny things. Like, he inspired his coaches to get creative and find ways to grab guys' attention and as they coached. So we had this awesome coach, Rocky Seto, who would come up in front of the team meeting room once a week. It was a team favorite. We loved it. And about a 5-minute video. But you'd always have he would connect nature documentaries, like nature, to, he'd make some connection to how we need to show up as a team. So he'd show ants crawling and making a big bridge together and stuff, and then he'd show the O linemen locking arms. And I don't know, there was I forget the exact details, but there was some really funny analogies there, and guys were hooked, and that would just create fun engagement for the team. Obviously a lot of energy for him to create it, but those are the types of things.
But the basketball wasn't the basketball.
So the basketball hoop
for competing all the time. And you even brought it on the road, I think, in playoff games.
Yep. The basketball hoop was at the front of the team meeting room, and we'd start out each team meeting with a free throw shooting competition, and he'd bring up 2 guys each time, 3 guys, and you'd shoot. You'd get 30 seconds to shoot, and it was usually an offensive guy and a defensive guy, and so there was pressure there, and you're competing and trying to make a bunch of shots. But that was the energy. So everyone was juiced up. Guys were hooting and hollering. So that's how we would start our meetings, and then we carried that through. The day before the Super Bowl, that's what we're doing in Arizona and in New York.
Who is the best shooter on the team?
Brian Walters was really good. He's he played basketball in high school. He was really good.
Yeah. Stephen, when learning through it, you talked about kind of, when you were young and then you go to different organizations, and I loved your explanation how when a new coach walks in the room and there's so many players and there's all, big egos and alpha males and why should I listen to this guy? Now I would think if you had a group who wants to win, you're like, well, I'm going to give them a chance. Or do they always have to prove it? And over time, could you sense on teams you were on, having been on a winning team, when you were on a team that wasn't a winning team, even though it had talent, that it missed that culture? Could you become one of those, you use a modem and then you need receptors around the room. Can you become one of those players in a quicker fashion, having been in a winning culture? And is that why you think so many teams in sports, you know what, like in the NHL, the trade deadline, NFL, oh, this guy won a championship. We're going to bring him in because he could be one of those vocal transmitters. He might not be as good of a player anymore on the field, but what he can bring to the culture can be more valuable. Did you sense that over your career? And could you even see it? And did you become one of those guys yourself?
Yeah, I think performance always matters, but if it's apples to apples, they know that these teams know they need this. They know they need guys who are responsible. They're professionals. They do all the right things. They know that that's important. So I definitely see that the issue with, or I don't want to say the issue, but the reality is these guys are all coming from different cultures. So you could have a great professional player, but he played for Bill Belichick for 10 years. So is he going to fit in Coach Carroll's culture?
Right.
The analogy I use is it's a lot like gardening, like where the culture is the soil, and the leadership is like the gardener, and the plants are like all the different players. So if you have a culture, which is the soil, if you have culture that's like super fertile, there's tons of resources for all the players. It doesn't really matter what plants you plant there. They're probably all going to do pretty well. If you have super dry soil that's like got no nutrients in there, not much is going to grow there.
Yeah.
And going back to the fertile soil with a fertile culture, you can bring in players that haven't done well in other cultures and plant them in your fertile soil, and they'll do great. So like all these resources matter a ton for a player, like, nutrition, just like the culture needs to be around everything that leads to performance in each individual. So, there's nutrition, there's all the mental stuff, there's physical resources, there's tools that elevate guys' games. I mean, as a kicker, like I was only as good as what I did, the stuff that I did to take care of my body.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. One last one. I got to get your thoughts. Your former coach, Pete Carroll, back in the NFL at 73. And I know he's a highly energetic guy. Some people, oh, geez, you get old and you're going to get tired. I don't know if that's going to be the case. But when you have a coach, any team that wins together, there's always that unique bond that I'm sure is there with your teammates and as a coach. And I know you're a big fan of Pete's. What's your thoughts on how he'll do, in his new gig?
Man, I'm very optimistic. I think he's going to do great. I think it was a great hire. I think he's the best there is at building a culture. He's the best I've seen at it. And I think he's going to stabilize that franchise, which is exactly what they need. It'll be really interesting too with Tom Brady there running that. Seems like he's calling a lot of shots on the ownership side, and sounds like they're going to be installing the TB12 method for their, nutrition and conditioning and all that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that scales. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting organization to watch.
Well, you mentioned the Belichick one. Well, that's kind of where Brady came from. So, those two worlds collide and,
they're colliding.
Yeah, you can do things differently and maybe it comes out and it's even better. It should be fascinating. One last one for you, Stephen. And what you're doing now, what do you get? What's the biggest joy? Obviously, when you play football, that's a huge joy. But right now, as a culture consultant, what's the biggest joy you get out of your job now? Because you talked earlier about it, you make it fun and you're going to want to, you come to work, you work harder. In your job today, what are you doing that's fun that allows you to work hard?
I just know how important it is to winning. It's fun to be connected to winning.
Okay.
Through this part, I'm not kicking footballs anymore, but I know that this is every bit as important as being on the field, and it's influencing winning at the same amount or maybe even a greater amount from higher up. So I really am having fun with that part of it.
Well, Steve, thanks so much for joining us, man. We'll have to have you back on again another time. We really appreciate it. Who you picking in the Super Bowl?
Oh man, I just don't even want to watch it, but I'm going to. I'm going to. I don't know. I guess Eagles.
Eagles. Hey, well, two good teams, man. And the Chiefs are obviously going for history. No one's ever won 3 in a row, which is pretty remarkable. So it should be a heck of a game. Two very different ways.
And thanks to the pause, you're going to have guacamole. Thanks to President Trump. So you guys will all be okay in your living rooms.
Thanks, Steve. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Rich.
Take care.
That's Steve Hauschka, Super Bowl winner, and fantastic. Just the importance of culture, and I want to dig into it because it gets used a lot, and I think a lot of our audience hears it, but doesn't really know, what. Or we want to build a good culture. Well, of course you do, right? Like, hey, we want to score more goals. Like, yeah, thanks, Captain Obvious.
But it's like your coach saying, I want to create an Italian dinner for you when you come over, but he's never taken any cooking classes. Like, what's he going to do? And that's the problem. We have a lot of good people in hockey, but they've never been, the first thing Mike and Steve do is teach the repeaters, which starts with the coaches, teach them the skills that they don't have. And you get a guy that went 50-2 in the East Coast League because he had a good team. He little bit okay with X and O's, gets the same experience by luck in the American Hockey League. Then he put him in the NHL, and he's got a struggling team. He has no idea how to communicate with them. And you hear the kind of things that Pete's doing, from the basketball hoop. Steve actually, the one value that Steve put in place in Golden State, a little bit different than Pete's, was joy. You go to a practice at Golden State, and Steph Curry knows when there's people observing and coming with Coach Kerr just to kind of watch. He'll come by with the basketball and laughing and they'll say, look at me, coach. I'm having so much joy, man. This is so awesome. And when your best player buys in it too, it's healthy. But if you look at that culture pervades everywhere, but it's real. It's authentic. Yes. Like they have every picture in their practice facility is there's players smiling or laughing. But Steve lives like that. So it's authentic and it can carry it through. I really believe it's true. Players are happy and relaxed. They will perform at their highest. They won't hold their stick. They won't be scared to go out for that next shift.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Rich, great stuff, man. Who are you picking in the Super Bowl?
I don't follow football. I only have got the guacamole out for this weekend. I really could care less, but I just have an affinity, I suppose, to being of the same spiritual persuasion of the head coach of the Chiefs that I kind of lean away to get Andy to, win. And I think he's such a good man and got good values and he's brought a lot. I like to see him win. But on the other hand, you know what? Philadelphia is a tough spot. They don't win very often. So I'll be happy either way, but hopefully get a 48-47 exciting finish.
Well, that'd be unreal.
I don't care otherwise.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Rich. We appreciate it, man. We will chat with you next Wednesday.
I'll be here. Thanks.
There you go. That's Rich Winters. Joins us every Wednesday here in the Business of Sports inside the Jason Gregor Show. Let's get to the Con Man of Sports 1440 update brought to you by Fountain Tire. And the midwinter tire clearance sale is on now. Oh, it's midwinter, man. It's freezing out there. But you need good tires. Save up to 20% off all in-stock winter tires, premium brands, unbeatable safety, and incredible savings. Details at fountaintire.com.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
It's game day. The Oilers taking on the Chicago Blackhawks out in Chicago. Puck drop 7:30, probably closer to 7:50. Andrew Walker, Donovan Paulson, pregame coverage starting at 6 right here on Sports 1440. Getting going shortly. Rangers host the Bruins, and at 8:30 on the Canadiens taking on the Kings. Off the ice, Sidney Crosby missed practice today with an upper body injury, which he suffered last night against the Devils. In the association, Toronto Raptors hosting the Grizz. Tip-off in about 30 minutes' time. Yeah, just about to get going. You got the Hornets, Bucks, Cavs, Pistons, Hawks, and Spurs later on. Nets, Wizards, Heat taking on the Sixers. Jazz host the Warriors and the Pelicans in Denver. In the BCHL, Sherwood Park hosting Okotoks. Puck drops 7 o'clock at the Silent Ice Center. And in the WHL, Wenatchee's in Regina, Calgary hosts PA, and the Rockets take on Victoria. Coming up in hour 4 of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll hear from Mark Spector of Rogers Sportsnet and Derek Van Diest of NHL.com. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin. CKJR is a Stingray radio station.
Download the free radio player app and listen wherever you go.
Kids get in free all season long. Can you believe it? Looking for an enjoyable and affordable family night out? The Spruce Grove Saints are excited to introduce their Kids Get In Free program. All kids 12 and under receive free admission for every Saints home game this season. Bring the entire family for action-packed junior hockey at a fraction of the cost. For more information, check out sgsaints.ca.
It's the 2-day customer appreciation event at Vitality Health Foods. They're offering 25% off regularly priced products in stock, like Dr. Klein's Shilajit, featuring pure Himalayan Shilajit. Customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. Visit Vitality Health Foods today.
Hey, did you know you can get a free drink today?
Nice. I love free drinks.
Yeah, Booster Juice called your name today on the Booster Rewards app. So you get a free smoothie, booster mixer, or fresh juice.
Well then, why are we still sitting here just talking about it?
Watch for your name on the Booster Rewards app and social media. 2 names every day, all February long. Must be a Booster Rewards app member. For complete details, visit boosterjuice.com.
Much of our challenges in healthcare can be solved by spending public dollars on a public system. Our healthcare system can't wait any longer.
Visit rebuildourhealthcare.ca to learn more.
For Selly hockey fans, your partner in power just skated onto the ice.
EWEL.ca, the new e-commerce website for electrical wholesalers Edmonton, is ready for the power play 24/7, 365.
UL skates to where the puck will be in 5 years. Now that's forward thinking.
Killer selection, slamming products from the best brands, and legendary service.
Don't sit on the bench. Get your account today at ewell.ca and win that project.
Plug into your partner in power. Get an EWEL.ca account today.
I'm Rick Showers from No Bull RV, and over the years, I've noticed something. New RV stores tend to treat the used RV customer as kind of a second-class citizen, not as important as the customer buying new. Heck, that even extends to the way they treat the used RV staff, and I ought to know.
You learn the business in the used department at a new RV store, right, Rick?
That's right, Bob, but I always loved used RVs.
Thanks,
all
President
one
Trump.
of a kind.
There you go.
I drove
Want
a
to score
used
more
car as well.
goals? Like,
Used
yeah,
is
thanks, Captain
always a
Obvious.
better value.
You know
than
what?
new. Come to think of it, I drive a
Thanks,
used
Steve. We
truck
really
now.
appreciate
Sounds like
Thank
buying
you guys
new
so much.
means
Thanks,
getting
Jason.
the most value
Thanks, Rich.
for every dollar spent.
That's it exactly, Bob. A new RV is worth a lot less the second you roll it off the lot. Our customers benefit from that correction in value, which makes them smarter. So we treat you like a VIP because every customer and every staff member knows our used RVs are better than new.
And that's No Bull.
NoBullRV.ca.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Japa Machinery. Did you know that Japa offers in-house and on-site service? Rain or shine, Japa's service department is here for you. Get a quote now at japamachinery.com.
The Jason Gregor Show, the best of Edmonton sports talk and beyond. This is Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
$5.10. Welcome back, Jason Gregor. Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, Orders Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Hope you're having a lovely Wednesday. Good news. Last day of the real cold snap, and things are going to warm up a little bit. Not a lot, but at least not below minus 20 starting tomorrow. So that's positives. Let's focus on the positive, and that is definitely a positive. It is the great. You know what's a positive? Go to playalberta.ca. Use the promo code Gregor50, and you'll get a free $50 play at playalberta.ca. As we get to lots of hockey talk, a little bit of football, and more in the Spec Report, brought to you by GS Construction. As they are hiring. If you want to work for a fantastic company, they're gearing up. They got lots of projects. If they have a great culture. We just talked about a culture there. You want to work where you feel an opportunity to grow. They love promoting from within. Go to Indeed.com and look up GS Construction. As we welcome back to the show, Mark Spector from Rogers Sportsnet. Spec, how you doing?
Welcome back to the South Pole, my friend. How you doing?
Oh, hey, dude. I left Hawaii and it was plus 26. I landed in Edmonton and it was minus 27. And I was just like, holy cow. It, was, you know what? But I like the cold, but obviously I don't love minus 26, but I could just close my eyes and visualize that the last 12 days I spent in Hawaii. So warm me up a little bit.
Yeah,
so,
warm me up a little bit. There you go.
Yeah,
all right.
good.
Back at her, back to the grindstone here.
And lots has happened since I was gone. Some massive trades in the NHL and in the NBA. And the Oilers keep winning. They have a chance tonight, Spec. In November and December, the Oilers had the second best record in the NHL, but they lost ground on Vegas because Vegas had the best record. They ended up with 2 more points over those 2 months. But since January 1st, if the Oilers win tonight, they will have gained 10 points on Vegas. They'll move 4 points up on them in the standings. They'll each have 28 games remaining, and the Oilers will be in the driver's seat to end their drought, the long NHL record drought, 36 seasons without winning a division. They just seem to be getting better. Vegas can't score to save their life right now. I look at the Oilers, Spec, and I guess give me your thoughts, first of all, on what you've seen early on Klingberg.
Well, I've been watching him quite, fairly intently. I wish he doesn't want the puck a ton right now. That's what I notice. He gets it and gets rid of it, which isn't a bad thing. But I think when you see a more confident player, you'll like the guy more who hangs on to the puck a little longer. I don't see him doing that at the moment. I don't see a guy that's overmatched defensively. I see a guy making simple plays and just moving the puck along and not, being the problem. So I think what I see is a guy that's played, what's he played? 3 games, jumping in the moving train here in January, February. And he's just trying to survive till the game slows down enough for him. And I think I want to say if he's this good at this stage of his comeback, I would think 10, 15 games in, he should be a little bit better than this, don't you?
I would think so. Yeah, I agree. Like his poise with the puck is there. He does like to move it quick. I thought last game against St. Louis, there were times where I felt in the offensive zone, he was holding on to it a little bit more. He's looking to make plays. I think he's definitely more confident there. I see a player, though, who's like just your gain speed, you don't get it right away, especially when you're off that long. And so, I think it'll obviously help him. I'm curious tonight. It's back-to-back. So, see how he feels there. And I'm even curious, do they play him back-to-back or do they have a plan that maybe he gets the night off?
Well, I don't know what the plan is. That's a good question, but I'd say to you, he'll graduate from a guy who's simply trying not to hurt the team to a guy who feels like maybe he can help the team. And that's when we'll see the real John Klingberg here. I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah. Looking at Jeff Skinner, Spec, we've talked about him a lot this year. Yep. His defensive awareness is, I think clearly, obviously he's heard the message from the coaching staff. I think he's been better defensively, no question. Do you see it is now like Podkolzin's down the lineup now, Corey Perry's up? Is there a chance that Jeff Skinner, is now the time to say, okay, let's see if maybe he can play with one of our guys? That's why we signed him originally. He's been better with his puck management lately. Is now the time to do it?
I think he's earning certainly earning the call up. And I think if you look at Knobloch's history, Connor Brown had a bunch of good games. He got a shot on McDavid's wing. Corey Perry's had a bunch of good games. He got a shot on McDavid's wing. Perry's he's not the long-term solution up there. So yes, I do think that, what we know about Knobloch is he does reward a guy like Skinner who's been busting it down there and who's deserving of promotion. So yeah, I do think he'll get a chance. He came out later in the game last night. He played with McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah, one shift.
And I think we'll see it on a more long-term basis than one shift. Is it a long-term solution? Does his game mesh with Draisaitl or McDavid? I'm not that bullish on that happening, but I think we all, and he certainly deserves another chance to show us that it can't work. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think, give him a chance to see what can happen. And tonight's, you might not have a better opportunity, Spec, because the Blackhawks are brutal. Let's call a spade here. They've been outshot by an average of 36-22 since the calendar turned to 2025. Wow. Right? You're getting outshot 14 shots a game, Spec. And the Oilers come in, by the way, Edmonton has the most shots in the NHL all season. and I think they're 7th in shots allowed. So, this on paper is a major mismatch. Now, I know it's the second half of a back-to-back game, and I get all that, and they were down 2-0 in Chicago the last time and had to battle back to win. So there's no guarantee wins, but, this Chicago team just simply isn't that good. And, Edmonton, I think, hey, they're ahead of Vegas now. I think this group is pretty focused. I've outlined their record many times against bottom teams. They're pretty good. They've been pretty good, actually, for many years. They beat the teams they should beat. And Chicago just gives up more chances than maybe any team in the league. So if there was ever a time to try it, you do it. And the one thing about Knobloch, Spec, like, I don't know about you, but I'm watching overtime, and I don't know how many coaches in the league are going to throw a guy who hasn't scored a goal in 21 games into the final few minutes, right, in overtime, and just be like, yeah, here we go. Like, it's not like he's a top 6 winger who is in a slump, and you're like, hey, we got to put him in there to get going, right? It's Connor Brown. He's a bottom 6 winger, and he's been playing okay. But to see him in overtime, ahead of some of the other guys that didn't play, I'm like, man, Knobloch he finds a way to push the right button at the right time.
No, there is. Like, the first thing you think is, why wasn't Draisaitl out there? And then you think, okay, if it's not Draisaitl, why wasn't Arvidsson out there? Or why wasn't, a guy who's got a hotter hand out there for sure? So, hey, good for the coach, man. And, Connor Brown said after the game, all I did was get open, stand there, wait for McDavid to break everybody's ankles and put it right on his tape. There was some irony in the fact that McDavid rolled right through Holloway and, brought Broberg out of position before he put the puck on Brown's tape. I thought that was kind of cool, but that play by McDavid. I mean, Bouchard does a real nice job of getting in the zone and then dropping it back to McDavid, and then Connor McDavid coming at you with speed. I felt sorry for Dylan Holloway. He had no prayer on that play.
Yeah,
no prayer.
Especially as a non-defenseman, right? Like, even defenseman wouldn't have a chance, but you're a forward in that spot. You're just like, oh my God, no chance. When I look at the Oilers' need right now, can you make an argument that their biggest need might be a scoring winger?
Yeah, it's boiled down to that, hasn't it? It's, I think we've learned some things here. Their defense has got stronger. Emberson's better than we thought. Kulak is playing both sides, is better than probably we thought. Nurse is playing unbelievable. Ekholm's always on Ekholm. Bouchard's offensive numbers are unbelievable this year. I'm here to tell you his game's going to get back to where it was in the playoffs last year anytime now. I thought last night defensively he was airtight. So their defense is better than we maybe predicted it would be all around. And I think we're seeing Podkolzin, I think is turning back into a pumpkin a little bit. Is that fair? No one brought him here as a second line left winger. No one thought he'd spend the whole season with Draisaitl. And here we are 53 games in, and I think we're starting to see a guy that probably isn't a top 6 player at this point in his life. Maybe one day, probably isn't yet. So if you told me that I'm Stan Bowman and I can only fill one position on my team right now, and I think you'll be able to fill 2, but if you told me I could only fill 1, yes, it would be a left winger for Leon Draisaitl. Jay?
Yeah. Looking at the NHL spec, the NHLPA and Ryan Hartman have appealed his 10-game suspension. Obviously I didn't see the play live. I watched it when I got back, and I'm like, that might be one of the dumbest plays I've seen in a long time. Right?
You think?
And so, they appeal. And I get the whole, he does have 10 games. So the NHL will probably hear the appeal around the 7-game mark. So he's going to miss at least 6 or 7 games because the appeal process in the NHL is anything but quick.
No.
Do you think there's any chance he gets that reduced?
Absolutely not. No. The history of reducing sentences in the league isn't very good. I'd have to go back. When's the last time one did actually get reduced? Someone did.
Yes, someone did too. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either. This isn't one of those. This was a blatant attempt to injure. His excuse, I just watched the player safety video, and on that video they said that he said Hartman claimed that he was falling over and he just braced himself on Stützle's back of his helmet so he wouldn't fall. But when you watch the video in slow motion, he's not off balance one bit. His excuse is a complete fabrication in my eyes. He has been either suspended or fined by the Department of Player Safety on average, Jason, once every 60 games in his career, right?
Yeah.
660 games, 11, I think 4 suspensions, 7 fines. So this is a historically dirty player making as dirty a play as I've ever seen, trying to injure somebody. If I'm Gary Bettman and he walks in my office looking for reduction, I might give him 12.
Jason Spezza, Connor looked it up, was the last player. He was suspended 6 games and it got reduced to 4. So
Okay,
he was
there you go.
And definitely not a noted goon by any stretch
No.
in Jason Spezza in his career.
And Hartman is. Hartman is a noted dirty player.
Yes.
As set out by a suspension every 60 games. There's no chance Gary Bettman, in my opinion, brings this thing down from 10.
Spec, looking at, I want to get, because I haven't talked to you about it, but you look at the Mikko Rantanen trade, massive deal, right? Pretty big player. And I look at it from Carolina's perspective. Now it's early. It's only 5 games, but they can't score. Since they acquired him, their offense is, dried right up. It's kind of odd, but he has 2 points in 5 games. They have a total of 11 goals in 5 games. And even Nathan McKinnon only has 5 points in the 6 games that the Avs have played since he left. So maybe it's hurt both teams in a way, but I look at Rantanen, Spec, and he's not playing with McKinnon now the rest of the way. And I'm not saying he's going to be a 2 point in 5 game guy, obviously, but let's say he's only like a point a game player. Right, he's not a 110 point pace guy anymore. Now he's an 80 point. Like, how much money could this cost him?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, no, that's a good question. Like, we don't, let's put an Edmonton focus on this. Like, we all laugh when people say, "Oh, Draisaitl's a product of McDavid." We know that's not to be true. It's a garbage take. But no one can argue with me when I say we don't know what Draisaitl would look like on a team without McDavid. And I think the same is true for Rantanen. Rantanen's like by far the best player in the trade. Anyone in the West is happy to see him go. I can't believe that Colorado let that quality of player walk out their door. But now we're going to find out. Like, is he, especially remember, he's a winger and he's played a ton with Nathan McKinnon as a centerman. So there is some reliance there, and that's fair. Wingers rely on centermen. I get it. Hyman's not scoring 50 if he's not playing with McDavid. I'm not taking a shot at Zach Hyman. It's just a fact. So, yes, this could cost him some money. I still think the world of Mikko Rantanen. I'd love him on my team every day. But, yes, take him away from, the second or third best player in the world, and you think you're going to be as good a winger? You're probably not, Jay.
Yeah. No, it's fair. I look at, I'm kind of curious about it. And then from Carolina's perspective, they gave up a lot to get him. What if they don't re-sign him? Like, this isn't like the Jake Gensel trade where they gave up a bunch of prospects. Like, they gave up Drury and Nitsch's, 2 guys off their lineup. Like, I think there's a lot of pressure now on them to want to re-sign Rantanen. So I'm kind of fascinated to see how this plays out.
How can you not re-sign him? I mean, they got a bunch of Finns there. They got a good team. Guys like playing there. What do you want, a better player than Rantanen? You're going to go and find a better guy? I mean, they're not available in the league. So, you know what? If Tom Dundon, the owner in Carolina, doesn't sign this guy, and I'm a fan of if I'm a fan of Colorado, I'm really disappointed because they've shown me they're not willing to spend enough money to win Stanley Cups. I'm very disappointed if I'm in Denver. If I'm in Carolina and they make this trade and they don't sign the guy, I feel the same way. I feel like my team is too cheap to win.
Yeah. Spec, have a good one. Enjoy the game tonight. Do the Oilers sweep the back-to-backs?
Well, I tell you what, I can't pick Chicago to beat Edmonton. I mean, I just can't make that pick. I mean, sorry. So
it's true. I totally agree. The way you put it, it's like, well, I just can't pick Chicago. So by process of elimination, I'm picking Edmonton. It makes sense. Spec, we'll chat with you tomorrow.
All right, man.
There you go. That's Mark Spector from Rogers Sportsnet. Quick break. We'll return. We'll get to the lineup. Of course, we'll get to DVD and more on a busy Wednesday edition of the Jason Gregor Show, Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X.
Legacy Heating and Cooling is the only place to call for heating your home. So when it's time to replace your old furnace, call Legacy. Or for 24-hour repair with no overtime rates, Legacy even heats your shower with hot water tanks.
Call Legacy. Call Legacy.
And with no interest and no payments for 1 year, it could only be Legacy Heating and Cooling.
Make your game day feast better with Papa John's. Create a mouth-watering pizza lineup with buffalo chicken, all the meats, the works, ultimate pepperoni, or create your own pizza possibilities. Now through Sunday, February 9th, get 25% off pizzas at regular menu price with promo code GAME25. Order at papajohns.ca or through the Papa John's app using promo code GAME25. Better ingredients, better pizza. Better get you some Papa John's.
We've finished construction of our gamma radiation containment facility. Is it up to code? Is it going to be safe?
Sounds like a job for the men and women of Action Electrical.
Testing team reporting. We test your commercial operations using tools like infrared to ensure safe operation. Trust us to prevent potential calamity before it strikes.
Facing an electrical menace? Call the men and women of Action. Operating throughout Alberta at actionelectrical.net.
Hockey is back, and Play Alberta, Alberta's #1 sportsbook and official partner of the Edmonton Oilers, has you covered with bigger offers, boosted odds, live betting, player props, and more. New to Play Alberta, new players now receive $200 in free bets just for signing up. You already play? Get a $10 free bet for every $100 you bet every week all season long. Visit playalberta.ca and make your picks today. Bonus terms and conditions apply.
It's the 2-day customer appreciation event at Vitality Health Foods. They're offering 25% off regularly priced products in stock, like Dr. Klein's Shilajit, featuring pure Himalayan Shilajit. Customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. Visit Vitality Health Foods today.
Shop like an insider with the Bricks Friends and Family Sale. Save up to 25% off sofas, love seats, matching chairs, and sectionals. When you buy more, you save more, up to an extra $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Plus, save up to 20% off bedroom and dining furniture. Save up to $600 off big screen TVs and up to 25% off TV stands, fireplaces, and wall units. Sleep better with mattresses up to 40% off. Some exclusions apply. See in store for details. The Brick, saving you more.
What would you do if you won $1 million in the Service Big Share contest? Maybe you'd have more time for... or do a little more.
This is your final boarding call for flight number 419.
Or finally, more... Entering to win the $1 million is easy. Just bring your savings to Service or add more to your account. The more you save, the more Service Big Share contest entries you get. Service Credit Union. Feel good about your money. Now open to Connect First members. Contest ends April 30th, 2025. Skill test required. For rules, visit service.ca/win.
Looking at the Alberta weather forecast, wild, unpredictable, brutally tough.
When the weather turns tough, Titan Supply doesn't back down. Titan Supply has been protecting workers from conditions like this for 50 years. We stand tall with you against the elements with the industry's best rigging, hauling, and lifting products to get you home safe. Tire chains, wire rope, round slings, chain slings, and a whole lot more. Titan Supply in Edmonton, Grand Prairie, Red Deer, and Calgary. Online at titansupply.ca. Lift, dig, haul.
Alberta's largest RV sale is back.
The Edmonton RV Adventure Sale and Show.
Powered by Aviva Insurance.
February 6th to 9th at the Edmonton Expo Center.
Discover over 350 specially priced RVs.
From trailers and fifth wheels to diesel pushers and toy haulers.
New this year, the Ask an Expert booth.
Plus, the lifestyle marketplace with local vendors.
And don't miss the world-famous Super Dogs.
It's fun for the whole family.
Tickets at rvda-alberta.org or at the door.
The Edmonton RV Adventure Sale and Show.
Find your wherever home.
It's the 2-day customer appreciation event at Vitality Health Foods. They're offering 25% off regularly priced products in stock, like Dr. Klein's Shilajit, featuring pure Himalayan Shilajit. Customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. Visit Vitality Health Foods today.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Cantork. We offer sale, rental, repair, and calibration of hydraulic, pneumatic, and battery-powered torque wrenches, stud tensioners, and flange maintenance equipment. Order today at cantork.com.
The Jason Gregor Show, the best of Edmonton sports talk and beyond. This is Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
5:32. Welcome back. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, Sports 1440, Orders Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Hope you're having an awesome day. We are going to get to 5 questions coming up after this segment. But first, let's talk a little hockey, maybe a little soccer even, with Derek Van Diest from NHL.com. DVD, how you doing, my man?
Good. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm excellent. Before we get to hockey talk, were you surprised about the Alphonso Davies announcement?
Actually, you know what? I haven't heard it. I've been out and about all day.
Well, no, not today, but just in the last week where he re-signed with Bayern Munich.
Oh, with Bayern. Sorry, no. Okay, yeah, no. Yes and no. I thought it was kind of a negotiating tactic. Like re-signing in Bayern. Yeah, no. He wanted to go to Madrid. I think everyone kind of wants Madrid. Once you get to Madrid, that's kind of a final destination for a lot of players. It's a dream to play there. But he's a big part of that Bayern team, and things are going well. So I just wonder if that Madrid talk was maybe negotiations to stick around in Bayern. But he's done well there. That's a world-class team. They're in the Champions League. They're battling in the Champions League every year. They win the German league seemingly every year. So. Yeah, he's in a good spot there. But, yeah, yes and no, because I thought he might try something else. But he's still young. There's still lots of time to do that. So, there's still a chance that he might end up in Spain at some point.
Yeah. Looking ahead to tonight, the Oilers taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. There's no guaranteed win nights ever in the NHL, but there are some where it should be win night, and I would put this as one. The Blackhawks are just not very good, and, they're going to win the odd game. But, Edmonton is a team that is clearly better, and they have a chance, DVD, to gain 10 points on Vegas in the first 36 days of the calendar year if they can get a win tonight. They're 8 up on Vegas, so even if they get an overtime loss, it'll be 9. If they win in regulation, shootout, or OT, it'll be 10, and then they're 4 points up with 28 games to go, and really puts them in a good spot here as Vegas is really struggling to score, and the Oilers have made up significant ground. And I really believe that first place in the Pacific is massive, and especially because it can guarantee it potentially at least 2 rounds of home ice advantage.
No, I agree with you, and I think that's the kind of carrot there. That's the motivation for the Edmonton Oilers. They work so hard to kind of get out of this. They had to play from behind again. They got off to a bad start, so they have to play from behind. They have to reel teams in, and they were able to do it for a while. They were playing really well, but they couldn't make up any ground on Vegas because Vegas was playing really well. But they have dropped off, and then they're struggling all of a sudden. Now they can't win a game. And the Oilers have been able to kind of catch them and surpass them. And I think this is an opportunity here. You can't drop these points because they're important. And I agree with you. I think this team has to finish first in the Pacific, just because I don't think you want to play the Kings for a 4th time and try to beat them for a 4th time. It just the odds against that are so stacked up against you. And I think they talked about home ice advantage and needing home ice advantage and how important it was throughout the playoffs. They were able to win a Game 7 on the road in the second round. But you look at that Dallas series. If they don't hold on in Game 6, that's a tough place to go play Game 7 in Dallas. And then of course we saw what happened in Florida in Game 7 there. So you want home ice advantage for as long as you can take it, and you want to finish as high in the standings. And also, Jason, you want to be able to win your first couple of series. You don't want to go 7-7, and then by the time you get to the conference final, it's going to be a war, and then another one when you get to the final. You want to try and get through these couple of rounds sooner than later, 5-6 games at the most, kind of get past them. And I think that the attrition that you save in those first 2 rounds, being able to get past maybe a little weaker opponent by finishing first in your division, that's going to pay off when you go into the conference final, when you go into the Stanley Cup final. And I think that's what the Oilers are looking at now. So, yeah, that's a big carrot there, and I don't see them taking their foot off the gas now that they did get into first place and do have a chance to get some separation here with the Golden Knights.
Where do you come out on how Victor Arvidsson has played this year?
He's a guy that, when I first saw him play every night, like we've seen him play a lot in LA. And he's like, he's relentless forechecker. He's like a dog on a bone on that puck. But I think he's got to be a bit more, he's got to provide a bit more offense. You can't just be a guy that just forechecks really well. You got to get more offense. You got to go to the net a little harder. You got to convert more chances. And I think when you play that style, when you play like all out all the time, that's really hard on your body. And we've seen that. And Victor Arvidsson's not a big guy. But I think I like the fact that he's very aggressive on the forecheck, very aggressive trying to get the puck. But I think the owners were hoping that they'd get a bit more offense out of him. And I think that's something that they're probably looking at going down the stretch here is how can we get more offense out of him? How can we get him to create more, to generate more, to score more? And I think outside of that, I think his game has been good. It's kind of what they expected. But you know what? I think there has to be more there. I think they have to provide a bit more. And he'd probably be the first one to tell you that he has to give you more. He has got to give you more than he has so far this season. I do like his tenacity. I do like his work ethic. But he's got to somehow try and find some offense here down the stretch.
Well, I just find like I don't see a lot of plays being made with him, right? And the other thing is like they could have an Arvidsson down shirt like they had with Scott Hartnell for a few years in Philly. Man, like that guy seems to be on the ice more than the Zamboni at times.
That's right. No, he does because he goes hard. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like that's just his style of game, and he's like you said, he's a dog without a bone. But yeah, I think he's got to be able to make more plays, give the puck to the playmakers, get to the net. And, play a game, simplify your game. When you're not a huge skilled guy, you got to kind of simplify your game and get the puck to the skilled guys. He plays on a line with Draisaitl, get him the puck as much as possible, and then get into the open areas. Draisaitl will find you. And I think that's kind of what you need more out of him. And yeah, he's got to stay on his feet a little bit more. I agree with you there. But I do like the tenacity that he plays with.
Lastly, John Klingberg, what's been your early impressions?
I've kind of been watching him. He does the little things really, really well. The offside, aside from that, he got into the zone a little early. And I just think that, that's something that he's going to have to get used to playing with Connor McDavid. Connor will make that extra move at the blue line. So you got to be able to time that a little better. And I think that's all that was. But he's got a good stick. Positionally, he plays really well. He makes a good first pass. He's not overly physical. But I think this is a guy like he was awful in Toronto, and even the Toronto media was here and they said this guy was terrible. But he was saying that he was playing with two bad hips. He was playing in pain every night. He couldn't skate. He couldn't move. That's why he was really bad in Toronto. So if that problem is really out of the way, if he's being able to solve that problem, you look at Patrick Kane and what he's doing in Detroit now that he's not playing with any pain. Yeah. You can get that problem out of the way. But I think he does positionally. He's really good. He's got a really good stick. Watching him from the press box, you can see he's a good defensive player. Maybe a little better than I thought because he's really good at breaking up passes, breaking up plays, poking the puck off sticks, and he makes a good first pass. He's got good offensive instincts. I've always liked him. I did see him a little bit when he was in Dallas, and I've always liked him in Dallas. I thought he was a good player. I think he's a good fit here, and it's just a matter of trying to find his game. And when a guy hasn't played in 15 months, if you play him every day, there might be a bit of a wall that he hits there. So I think Chris Knobloch will be careful with that because you want to bring him along slowly and you want to be able to get him back up to speed, and you don't do that overnight. And it's been a long time since he played hockey, but early returns, and we asked Connor McDavid about this before they left for the trip. He thought he's been playing well. Early returns are positive. It's just see how much more they can get out of him.
DVD, enjoy the game tonight. We will chat with you next week, my man. Have a good one.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
There you go. That's Derek Van Diest from NHL.com. Covers the Oilers, Jets, Flames, and Canucks. So we'll come back with 5 questions on the Wednesday edition of the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. We'll also get your text, 833-401-1440 in our eWell inbox.
A bedtime story by Zachary Martin Hyman.
The hockey game's over. The Zamboni sleeps soon. I lay down in comfort, legacy heating my room. Good night to you, furnace, with your hot blower running. Good night to you, air vents, keeping the warm air coming. Good night to my payments that I won't see for 1 year. Good night to my legacy. Bedtime is near.
Warm winter nights. That's how you soothe your legacy. Legacy Heating and Cooling.
My utility bills are going through the roof. How can I take advantage of the sun and put my lazy roof to work?
Sounds like a job for the men and women of Action Electrical.
Energy team reporting. When you're ready to make your home or business more efficient, Action Electrical has the power to install solar panel systems and EV chargers.
Facing an electrical menace? Call on the men and women of Action. Operating throughout Alberta with supercharged skills and strong family values. ActionElectrical.net.
Make your game day feast better with Papa John's. Create a mouth-watering pizza lineup with buffalo chicken, all the meats, the works, ultimate pepperoni, or create your own pizza possibilities. Now through Sunday, February 9th, get 25% off pizzas at regular menu price with promo code GAME25. Order at papajohns.ca or through the Papa John's app using promo code GAME25. Better ingredients, better pizza. Better get you some Papa John's.
You don't know what awaits you on the road to come, but with the 2025 XC90 from Volvo of Edmonton, you'll have the versatility to take on whatever life throws at you. The new XC90, a luxurious SUV with seating for up to 7, boasts newly upgraded body and wheel design. It's the perfect choice to drive into the coming year. And right now, you'll save $4,500 and lease from 1.49% on all in-stock 2025 XC90s. Volvo Cars Edmonton. VolvoCarsEdmonton.com, 1205 101 Street Southwest.
McDonald's presents a hockey showdown like never before. McDavid versus Matthews. There can only be one winner, competing for all the glory and all the prize. The new menu features top shelf plays like the Smoky Quarter Poppy and the Big Mac David, so everybody scores. With even more delicious options like the Spicy Junior Chirpy. Now that calls for a silly Sunday. The Showdown menu, now available at McDonald's.
Scott McGilvery here, HGTV host and renovation expert. The one upgrade I know homeowners will love: better, fresher Culligan water straight from the tap. Culligan's Aquasential reverse osmosis filtration system takes your water to the next level. With up to 7 stages of filtration and 14 filter options, they're certified to reduce over 90 contaminants. Your tap water is about to get a major upgrade. Safer water that tastes great. Get started with a free in-home water test at Culligan.com. Culligan, water you love.
From the casinos of Vegas to the bingo halls of Leduc, everybody wants a piece of Lady Luck. And what thanks do I get? It's like I don't even exist.
There's no such thing as luck. If you gamble, use your game sense. Visit GameSenseAB.ca.
We celebrated in 72. And we did it again in 2010. Now, Team Canada faces an unprecedented trade war from the United States. Your buying power is our power play. Look for Made in Canada and choose Canadian products at the store. Shop at businesses who provide jobs for your friends and neighbors. Rediscover the beauty of Canada on your next vacation. We have always been Team Canada. This message from Stingray Radio, Canada's largest independent radio broadcaster, proudly serving Canadian communities from coast to coast.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Epcor. Stormwater ponds in Edmonton are designed to move water and runoff from streets and sidewalks, making them unsafe for winter activities. Instead, head to a community league or city rink that's safe for you, your family, and friends. Think twice and stay off the ice. Learn more at epcor.com/winter safety.
The Jason Gregor Show, the best of Edmonton sports talk and beyond. This is Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
$5:44. Welcome back, Gregor. Halley with you on Sports 1440. Let's get to 5 questions brought to you by The Brick, where you can, up until the 13th, you can shop like an insider with The Brick's Friends and Family Sale. You can save up to 25% off sofas, love seats, matching chairs, sectionals, and more at The Brick and thebrick.com.
It's time for 5 questions on the Jason Gregor Show.
All right, Jason, question number 1. Second game in 2 nights for the Oils. Do you think they complete it? 2 wins in 2 nights. And who will score the first game, or the first goal of the game?
Yeah, well, they get a little extra time. Of course, usually these games would be starting around 6:30 Edmonton time, but tonight will be closer to 8, so they get a little extra rest after getting in from St. Louis, so that probably won't hurt them. And Chicago's just a bad team. So I will say Edmonton wins, and first goal of the game, Connor McDavid seemed to elevate his game here a little bit. So would he have 9 shots against Leafs? I know he didn't score, but he was great against St. Louis. So I'll go with 97. And I'm not even sure how many first goals of the games he has this year, but I don't think it's many. So I'm going to go with 97. He's due.
Yeah, I mean, Spec nailed it. How can you pick the Blackhawks to beat the Oilers? It's tough to do. So, yeah, Oilers get the job done tonight. First goal of the game. I want to just be gutsy and say Connor Brown keeps it going. But give me Zach Hyman, I think.
Okay. McDavid has 4, actually. I looked. He has 4 first goals of the game. Hyman has 2. Draisaitl leads with 8.
Not surprising. Question number 2. We know the Blackhawks in a tough spot right now. If you had to give that fan base one piece of advice, as well as a prediction for when they make the postseason, what would your answers be?
Ooh, one piece of advice. Oh God, I don't know. Be realistic. Right, that'd probably be be realistic, less chance of being disappointed, and make the postseason. Oh man, I'm gonna say honestly, at least another 4 years. I know that they didn't want to hear it, but hey, Connor Bedard's on Connor McDavid, and they don't like he was like the first piece of the rebuild, really. So they got a long ways to go, baby.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like at least that long. Winnipeg, Dallas, Minnesota, Colorado. I think Utah is a club on the rise. I've got more faith in probably the Blues and the Preds to turn things around. So I think it's going to be a long time for the Blackhawks. Advice to their fan base: take advantage of the cheap seats. When the Oilers were in the decade of darkness, I went to so many games. I got so many free seats because season ticket holders didn't want to go. So just go to as many games as you can and enjoy the bright spots that are there, like a Connor Bedard.
Yes.
20 hours away, give or take, from the NBA trade deadline. Durant not going to go for the Suns. Do you think he's on his way out? And if so, where would you like to see him end up?
Oh, we haven't even talked about the Doncic trade yet. Since I got back. Where do I think he's going to go? It's a good question. Man, what about the Suns? How disappointed of a team have they been? Honestly,
yeah.
I heard that. Oh, they're going to trade the Warriors. Like they have the exact same record. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You know what? I'm going to say, if I pick a surprise team, I think he's either. I was going to say the Bucks, but I saw they made their trade earlier today, so I'm going to say he goes out east and maybe just a straight up him for Butler trade, but that's probably unlikely. So I'll say my surprise team is going to be Houston, though. How about that?
All right. I mean, I have no idea where he might end up. You saw like kind of whispers of the Warriors. Yeah. I'm going to say bring him home. Send him back to OKC with the Thunder.
They don't need him, man. They don't need him.
Another piece to the puzzle. They're one of my favorite teams to watch. So it'd be interesting to see that. Obviously, we know he spent some time there. Question number 4. We'll lead up with more Super Bowl questions as we get closer. But give me one X factor for each team, Eagles and Chiefs, heading into the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Go ahead.
Defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs, for the Eagles, I'm going to say Jalen Carter. Guy's a menace at the defensive line. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to go for the Chiefs. I think it could be one of those receivers that have big play capability. So Hollywood Brown, a guy, maybe the Eagles defense gets caught sleeping and he can expose them. So I'll go with Hollywood Brown for the Chiefs.
All right. My X factor is going to be, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to rush for more yards than people expect. So obviously expecting to throw well, but I think he's going to run lots. And for the Eagles, he has had, I'm going to say Brown shows up because he's been non-existent almost in the playoffs. And I think if they're going to win, he's like, I get their running game's good, but I think you're going to have to throw the ball. So I'm going to say Brown.
Question 5, National Girls and Women in Sports Day today. So give me your favorite female athlete to watch right now and favorite woman working on the media side of things.
Probably Caitlin Clark. She's pretty dominant in her sport right now. So I would say her. For you?
I'm going to say Caitlin Clark's a great answer. I was thinking maybe Summer McIntosh, though.
Oh,
Don't get to see her quite as often. Obviously, we spotlights on the Olympic Games, but what she did this past Olympics was just unbelievable. So taking part, I will say Summer McIntosh. And when it comes to the media side of things, big fan of Mina Kimes, NFL work for ESPN.
Oh yeah, oh that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. You know who? I really like Doris Burke.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah. Her and the other. She's I don't know, she's different in how she goes about it. Is kind of what I like about her. So, trying to think of Like there's a few lately that have, funny enough, welcome to the real lovely world of the media. We've seen as many women as men getting themselves in hot water on the broadcasting side of things. So we'll probably try to avoid those ones, but got to be a little careful out there now, Cons. Careful what you do. I see it's even, stemmed over into the Oscars. There's a big controversy, to quote Jimmy Fallon, going on there right now. So I wasn't up to that. But I have to say, before we go, because we didn't talk about it, the Grammys, Cons. Did you happen to? I probably haven't watched the Grammys in a while, but they just came on at the time because it's like 3 hours later in when I was in Hawaii. So like when it's 9 o'clock here, it's 6 o'clock there. So it just seemed to have more time. It was a little bit later in the night. I was watching it. The new artist category, I was blown away by how many unreal new artists were up for that category. And I'm like, man, Shabuzi, I really like him. And then, Teddy Swims, I really like him. And you went through all of them, and they had Ray was in there. And of course, Roan won, Chappelle Roan. But honestly, I thought Benson was in. I thought that might have been the toughest category of all the ones where I was looking. I'm just like, holy cow! Like this one was legit. The best new artist might have been the best cat. I got to go back and look. Like, was that the best category, top to bottom, of best new artists? At least for me in recent memory, I can't think of it that was that deep with that many. Like, oh my God, they could win. Oh, he could win. She could win. It was good.
You're saying music is in good hands going forward.
Well, it seems to be. But then I was looking at it, I'm like, well, is this just a good rookie year? I got to go back and see how many who were, breakout artists and then had a really good career. Or were they just, average? I haven't done the research, but I'm curious. I do that in sports, and so I know it. But I was just kind of got me thinking. I was like, I wonder, how many times you have many of them, and then do they live up to it? Or do we have Jim Carrey rookies of the year? And I don't really see from him again. What happens? Any of the musicians out there, let me know. But I thought this year's group was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm getting old. I have heard of two of these artists.
Buddy, Teddy Swims is unreal. I'm telling you right now. I would highly recommend listening to Teddy Swims.
I'll give it a listen.
Oh, buddy, that guy's got a great set of pipes. And all different ranges, right? Like from him to Benson Boone and all the others. I got a young son now, so I'm listening to all the music. But man, Teddy Swims, I'm a huge fan of his. Right? Quite like it. It's good. Coming up, we got an extended edition of the pregame show. You want to tune in? Oilers, Blackhawks. Oilers could move up 4 points ahead of Vegas with a victory tonight. Let's get to the Command Sports 1440 update brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling. Right now, they are hiring HVAC installers and plumbers. Starting bonus for the right candidates, strong benefits, RRSP matching, and much more. Apply today at legacyheating.ca.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
Game day, the Oilers in action tonight, taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. Puck drops step 7:30. Expected to be closer to 7:50. We've got pregame coverage with Andrew Walker and Donovan Paulson coming up next. One game going on right now. After 20 minutes, Rangers and Bruins are scoreless. Later tonight, you got the Canadians taking on the Kings. Puck drop 8:30. In the association, Raptors and Grizz tied at 20 apiece with 4 minutes left in the first quarter. We also have the Spurs leading the Hawks 51-35. Cavs on top of the Pistons 54-48, and the Bucks on the road in Charlotte taking on the Hornets, leading 56-48 later tonight. Warriors take on the Jazz, Nuggets host the Pelicans, Suns and OKC, and the Kings taking on the Magic. From the BCHL, Sherwood Park will host Okotoks. Puck drop just after 7 o'clock at the Silent Ice Center. And in the WHL, Wenatchee's in Regina, Calgary hosts VA, and the Rockets in Victoria. That's going to do it for us here on the Jason Gregor Show. Coming up next, we've got pregame coverage with Andrew Walker and Donovan Paulson. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
This is Sports 1440, a Stingray radio station broadcasting on Treaty 6 territory.
Download the free iHeartRadio app and listen to CKJR wherever you go.
It's the 2-day customer appreciation event at Vitality Health Foods. They're offering 25% off regularly priced products in stock, like Dr. Klein's Shilajit, featuring pure Himalayan Shilajit. Customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. Visit Vitality Health Foods today.
Make your game day feast better with Papa John's. Create a mouth-watering pizza lineup with buffalo chicken, all the meats, the works, ultimate pepperoni, or create your own pizza possibilities. Now through Sunday, February 9th, get 25% off pizzas at regular menu price with promo code GAME25. Order at papajohns.ca or through the Papa John's app using promo code GAME25. Better ingredients, better pizza. Better get you some Papa John's.
In 1973, deep in the basement of an Edmonton family home, an elite team of specialized forces came together to form Action Electrical.
Action Electrical Divisions, assemble!
Projects team reporting.
Service team reporting.
Testing team reporting.
Energy team reporting.
Supercharged with skills in their electrical fields and grounded by strong family values. Facing an electrical menace? Call on the men and women of Action. Operating throughout Alberta at actionelectrical.net.
Legacy Heating and Cooling is the only place to call for heating your home. So when it's time to replace your old furnace,